The snap, steps back, lobs one up towards De'Ami Brown. One-handed catch, touchdown! Touchdown Washington, and the second of the game for Brown.
Taysom Hill keeps it to the left, 10, 5, and to Taysom, touchdown! Taysom Hill keeps it, looks for first down, and he's got it, and he's got room to run. 50, 40, 30, 20, will he get caught from behind? That is going to be a touchdown, Taysom Hill! Taysom TD, 60 yards.
Josh handles it, back to throw, pocket collapsing, fires a deep one downfield, looking for Gabe Davis, makes the catch at midfield. He's going to sail into the end zone. Gabe Davis at the 20, at the 10, touchdown. Holy mackerel, 98 yards.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Holy mackerel is correct. We welcome you into Lunch Money here on a Monday, coming out of all the Week 5 festivities on Sunday. And to be honest, we here at Lunch Money, we here at the Bettor Sports Network, we in the fantasy football industry and community, we like to pride ourselves on kind of knowing things and being correct and being right. Ray, if you had asked me Sunday morning who De'Ami Brown plays for, I don't know if I would have gotten it correct. I now know he plays for the Commanders after a massive Sunday, but De'Ami Brown had been like outside of my conscience before showing up for a huge game against Tennessee yesterday. I missed that one. It snuck up on me.
Yeah, I knew who he was and what team he was on. It helps that he has a cool name because Dami, like who's De'Ami? It's like, I don't know, Konomi. What's the code? Konami, there it is. Code.
Konami was the game maker for Contra.
Yeah. Up, down, left, right, select, start, whatever the hell it was. But yeah, and this happens. We know how this goes. This happens every week at the NFL, right? Where we have guys come out of nowhere, guys do things we're not expecting. The question then is, what do you do thereafter? And we want to make sure that people don't chase.
Yep. De'Ami Brown showing up while we're still here waiting for Terry McLaurin to show up once. That's all I'm asking for. One good game, Mr. McLaurin. One good effort. Hopefully everybody had a good effort on Sunday. You heard the highlights there, courtesy of the Bills Network, the Commanders Network, and of course, the Saints Network. Because there is no bigger story coming out of Sunday's action, Ray, than Taysom Hill. And I know you've got your Taysom takes, Ray. Nothing gets you more fired up outside of Josh Gordon than talking about Taysom Hill. But man, oh man, what a showing by the QB / running back / tight end / wide receiver / crack blocker / punt returner. I mean, Taysom Hill, Ray, probably the most versatile player in the entire National Football League.
And you know what's amazing to think about this? If this was 30 years ago, 20 years ago, all Taysom Hill would be special teams. That's all he would do. Teams wouldn't have said you can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. They would have typecast and put him in a certain role. He would have been a failed tight end. He would have been a failed quarterback. He would have been a failed running back. He would have been a special teamer. But with the way things are today, guys with these skill sets, teams find ways to involve them in the offense. We thought with Sean Payton disappearing, it would be the end of Taysom Hill. It unfortunately hasn't been. The interesting thing, something we were talking about right before the show started, he still isn't on the field. It's one of those things that he's a gimmick player. And yesterday, the gimmickness worked as well as the gimmick-y can ever work in NFL history.
Well, this will be the most classic of all classic cases of chasing points next week, Ray. I'm guessing even in the leagues where Taysom Hill was owned, he's probably started in less than 10% of those lineups, probably less than 5%. Next week, Ray, I don't even know who the Saints are playing. Hell, they may be on a bye. I don't know. But whoever they're playing, Ray, I guarantee Taysom Hill will either be picked up in all leagues and started, or those who had him on the bench will sit him in. Taysom Hill, Ray, will be in at least 50% of those starting lineups in week 6. Is that, I know you're going to say that's silly, bad choice, but do you think that number's silly? Because I think all the people who benched him, they're going to seriously be kicking themselves. Luckily for me, I don't own him anywhere. I don't have to care about Taysom Hill. I'm not going to chase him. I don't care. Right. But Ray, those people who had him, even if you won yesterday, you're saying, did I just miss the best that Taysom Hill has to offer?
Ever in his entire life. Yes, you missed it. For those people that chased TJ Hawkinson yesterday. How'd that go? And that's a real tight end. Taysom Hill is the third player in NFL history to have 100 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and a touchdown pass in the same game. The other 2 were Ronnie Brown, running the Wildcat, and LaDainian Tomlinson. And let's also add in that Taysom Hill recovered a fumble. And as you said, he laid a great block there as well. So, again, he did everything. But, yeah, we were joking about it. He's not even averaging 20 snaps a week. He doesn't play. He's not on the field. But
you have to think, wouldn't you think, Ray, that changes now? Like New Orleans looks at it and says, wow, that was something. Here's my issue. I get it for a game.
Yeah.
Like a one-off. Bit of a surprise. Seattle wasn't ready. Ray, that ain't happening next week. That ain't happening anymore. The surprise is gone. See what the Saints like to do blocking-wise, play calling-wise when Taysom Hill's out there. And kudos to the Saints, Ray. They're using them, trying to find something different, and they just trample. I mean, they owned the Seahawks with all those Taysom Hill plays. But any team, now the video's out. The cat's out of the bag, and you should be able to plan for this. Yesterday, Seattle hadn't planned for this, Ray. Now everybody knows we got to plan for this.
Well, let's remember multiple things. Number one, there were plays where Taysom Hill was on the field where there were no receivers. It was 3 tight ends and a bunch of dudes on the – like, they're saying we're going to run the ball, and Taysom Hill would run the ball and get 12 yards. Like, that's bad defense, okay, number one. Number 2, we had Jameis Winston out. Number 3, we had Michael Thomas out. Number 4, we had Jarvis Landry out. They were without in essence, 3 of their top 4 offensive players. Now, isn't it interesting that, again, Michael Thomas continues not to play unless Jameis Winston plays. We're hearing that Michael Thomas might play this week, which means, of course, Jameis Winston's going to play this week if anyone's putting money on it. They're both will be in there or both will be out. But, yeah, this is a team that was the only guy they had of their top 4 was Alvin Kamara. That was the only one. The other 3 roll out. So they did a gimmicky game. And, we have to – there's a lot of things you can take away here. What you can really take away is the Seahawks defense is atrocious. It is absolutely awful. They got smoked by the Lions back to Kingdom Come. Yesterday, they got gimmicked to Kingdom Come, gave up 39 points to a team that didn't have its starting quarterback, didn't have its wide receiver 1, didn't have its wide receiver 2. They still gave up 39 points. They are a horrid defense. So the takeaway isn't start Taysom Hill. The takeaway is start everyone against the Seattle Seahawks.
Well, the takeaway again is it's a one-off for Taysom Hill. Now, that kind of leads us into talking about these games. It's something we do each and every Monday here on Lunch Money. We go game by game, and we really go game by game, and we really go with our takes from all the Sunday action. In fact, for the next hour or so, you will get nothing but Ray and I giving you our takes from all the action that mattered. And Ray, I guess we should jump right into that Saints-Seattle game. A lot of scoring, 39-32 was the final. There were great moments. You mentioned the Seattle defense. It was a mess. Geno Smith looked good again. Let's start with Taysom Hill because the backfields on both sides are kind of the storyline here. On the New Orleans side, Ray, the idea of adding Taysom Hill, because it's really difficult, even if people believe what we're saying, hey, that's a one-off, that's as good as it gets. Now everybody knows to prepare, get set for Taysom Hill. Ray, it's impossible to look at the waiver wire and say, oh, yeah, I don't need to bid on a guy who just got 30-plus points, especially if he's listed as a tight end.
Which he sure –
like, we've talked about this on and on and on for a month. So what is the deal with Taysom Hill? How are you treating this? I know you don't – hey, we all know he can't do that every week. What can he do every week? Does he belong as a tight end every week? Like, that's probably a fair question, I think, Ray, picking him up and making him my tight end.
Yeah. Horrible defense, no starting quarterback, no starting receiver, no wide receiver 2. Those are 4 huge pieces that contributed to Taysom Hill yesterday, and he still only touched the ball 10 times. Let's not go nuts here. He pulled the Tyler Higbee. He just happened to get touchdowns, right? His role in this offense will never be as pronounced as it was yesterday unless the top 3 guys continue to be out of the mix, right? So this is out of necessity. When you look at the tight end position, I can't say that adding Taysom Hill is wrong. I can't say it. Okay. Would I do it? No. And here's why I wouldn't do it. You've been going to the waiver wire and you added Logan Thomas here. You added Ross Dwelly here for a week that Kittle missed. You added, who you adding?
Will Dissly.
Will Dissly, Kyle. Yeah, you added Noah Fant when someone dropped him. I mean, just going through this random thing. and you're paying 5% of your budget. If you want to spend 5% of your budget to try to add Taysom Hill this week, I don't have a problem with that. Okay. If you're gonna grab him and realize that one week it's going to be 11 points, next week it's going to be 3, if you're okay with that, add him as if he was one of these other tight ends you've been adding. Fine. The huge mistake is bidding on Taysom Hill, right? It's not, he's a random guy. You'll just throw a couple bucks at him. Cool. But bidding 10, 15, 20, 25% to get him, which is what some people will do, is a massive mistake, because when it's all said and done, Taysom Hill has a very good chance of being one of these 8 to 12 point a week tight ends. If you average it all out, he certainly does after yesterday's effort. He has a chance to be that guy the rest of the way, but he's just that guy. He is not someone that people should be truly bidding on at the tight end position.
Well, I think at tight end, Ray, is he playing tight end? He really doesn't on this offense. They have Troutman, they have Juwan Johnson, so he doesn't ever line up as a tight end, but a lot of services out there have him listed as a tight end. You think about it, Ray, he's still like your prototypical tight end to where it can be 2 points a week or 15 points a week. It really comes down to that touchdown. He's not going to get receptions. Now, maybe I'm totally wrong, and the Saints are going to now line him up out wide, and Taysom Hill truly becomes this jack of all trade. But honestly, Ray, he's really a running back, it looks like, in this offense. He's really the wildcat. That's what they're doing. That's what they did yesterday. And you mentioned Winston. I would think, Ray, that if Winston is back, we don't see a whole lot of the Taysom Hill taking snaps. That would be my guess. Now, maybe the Saints have come to the realization, like the rest of the NFL, that Jameis Winston is a very average at best quarterback. Maybe the Saints say, my gosh, look at what we did Sunday against Seattle. We need to make this a feature of our offense. It is so tempting to make that play, to make that bid, to say, oh, I've outsmarted the system. I've beaten that dastardly tight end game. I went with a tight end that isn't even a tight end, and now look how brilliant I am. But I would almost argue, let that be somebody else's problem. This position and this offense with New Orleans, you mentioned the matchup they had yesterday. Now there's tape out, all that stuff. Teams are going to be prepared. It makes such a difference. And we like to think, Ray, well, gosh, can't Seattle stop? Can't an NFL defense see what's occurring and just draw up new plays and stop it? And honestly, Ray, I don't think they can. Like when NFL teams get hit with something that's different, that's crazy, that's outlandish, they're lost. Like they don't know where to go. This goes back to last week when we were talking about Denver and Indianapolis and that horrid Thursday night. It's like when things change or when they're not like gift wrapped for the players, nobody knows how to react. Nobody knows what to do. They're almost, they're robots. And so when things go off the beaten path, it's like, what the hell do we do? We're looking. That's what Seattle felt like yesterday, Ray. They didn't know what was going on. And they were like, what, Taysom Hill, my God, we didn't prepare for this. We didn't even have him in our playbook. And it became a real rolling rock of every time he got the ball, Seattle just seemed frozen in place. And he ran like he was moving at 500 miles an hour, Ray. Mm-hmm. And the defenses were just like firmly planted in the turf. It was wild to see Seattle just kind of almost turtle in front of Taysom Hill.
Yeah, they were running an empty backfield with no receivers on the field. What do you think they're going to do? Run, maybe? I don't know. Who's going to throw
that one pass? He did one pass.
But you know what I mean? They're running three tight end sets with no receivers, no one in the backfield. Everyone's on the line of scrimmage. Like, what do you think they're going to do? And I understand it's now rah versus both sides. But how does a guy do that and rip off 12-yard runs? How does that happen? Like, that's, again, terrible defense by Seattle. Terrible defense. Okay. Yeah. And remember, too, like I said, Taysom Hill before yesterday was averaging 8 points a week. And he'll go back to being 8 points a week.
Or 8 points. Yeah, exactly.
8 points. He's doing nothing. He's tight end 17 or whatever. He's doing nothing. And he'll go back to being that, and he'll have that splash week. And this is not overly different, really, than O.J. Howard, who had the 2 touchdowns at the start. We all said, what are you doing? Don't back off O.J. Howard. He didn't play. He didn't run routes. He wasn't on the field. And what has he done since? Nothing. It's going to be the same thing with Taysom Hill. There will be another splash game, right? Of course, yes. But he's not part of the offense. The only reason you run Taysom Hill out there is because you think the defense is absolutely stupid, which, to your point, that's what it looked like with Seattle yesterday. And secondly, because you need gimmicks because you can't run straight football. And again, quarterback, wide receiver. They were down pieces. They felt like they had no choice. They did it. It got them 39 points and a win.
there are a lot of people looking for a tight end, Ray. They're going to say, I'm going to bid on this guy. What's the max you would get? 10%?
I wouldn't even go to. I honestly wouldn't go to 10%. But
wouldn't go to 10%.
I wouldn't go to. Now it depends. It also depends who you have, Kyle. I mean, it's
Well, most of us don't have a good one.
If your starting tight end is, I don't know, Juwan Johnson, who we were joking about before the show. If your starting tight end is, Daniel Bellinger. I mean, okay, all right. But I mean, if you've got a, Gerald Everett or Ingram or Conklin or Fryer, what's the point of having that second tight end? At least those other guys are catching, 3 or 4 passes a week for 38 yards. Like they're at least involved in the offense. Taysom Hill is not really part of the offense.
Yeah, gotta tell our buddy in the chat room, Freaky Fat Guy. He's like the cat who falls out of the 500-foot high tree but still lands on their feet. He didn't have Kyle Pitts yesterday. He said, "What the hell? I'll go Taysom Hill." Best decision of your lifetime, Freaky Fat Guy. And then there were people who had that occur as well. Just do the random dart. They got Taysom Hill. Boom. Now, don't expect that ever again this season. And remember, you had this golden week with Taysom Hill. You were forced into it, but it counts. You got the points, and the Saints got the victory. As for the Seattle side, Ray, the big news is also in their backfield. It is now time for Kenneth Walker to take over. Rashad Penny injured again. We always know that's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Yesterday was the win. It was in New Orleans, and sounds like it's on the serious side of things, Ray. We're hearing broken tibia, probably surgery, probably done for the year. So major hit for the Penny owner. Again, no shocker. Rashad Penny, look at the history. We all knew what we were getting into. This is now Kenneth Walker, Ray, and this is another guy that you can point to and say, that should have been a handcuff
100%.
you were able to get.
100%.
If you were a Penny owner, Kenneth Walker was not all that difficult to grab. And the other feature, Ray, that made Kenneth Walker a very good handcuff is there's nobody else really in this backfield. I guess you have DJ Dallas floating around, but I mean, this should be a lot of Kenneth Walker, and maybe even more so than Taysom Hill. The bidding this week is going to be after Kenneth Walker of the Seahawks.
And I know that over, the Discord at fantasyguru.com, people can use the code BETTOR, BETTOR, for a discount with any of our products at fantasyguru.com. I go in there and I'm answering questions, and it's always hey, what do I do? Do I do Pacheco? Do I do Carter? Do I do Walker? Who do I want? And it's all these young running backs. And it's like, and I answered a lot of people last week, you got to hold Walker because, Penny's already dealing with, it was a shoulder, right? But he's already dealing with something. I am stunned out of what I have seen over the last, 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever it is, about people talking about they're going to get Walker on the waiver wire this week. Like, what's going on? Like, how is Walker on the waiver wire? Like, I don't. And, I guess I'm really removed from the people because Kenneth Walker was drafted in the 9th round in my leagues. No one's dropped Kenneth Walker in a single league I'm in any league. He was drafted. He was going to be a hold. He was a long-term play because the smart people realize that, number one, you need to handcuff Penny. Number two, Penny has this troubling injury history, so we want this guy. Number three, it's a Seattle offense that's not going to want to throw the ball 40 times a week, right? Okay. How is Walker on the waiver wire? And if you're in a league that's 10 teams or you're in a league with 3 bench spots, one of these, get in a better league. Because it's like now your opponents can run to the waiver wire and get this guy because roster construction in your league is so small, or the way it's, you know what I mean? It's like, and we say this all the time, the people at fantasyguru.com, the people listening here to us on Better Sports Network, you should be able to take advantage of the time, the effort, and energy you put into this. And if you're in a league where Kenneth Walker's on the waiver wire right now, you're just not in a league where you can take advantage of that.
Yeah, and with Walker, he hasn't been used a whole lot. Now, yesterday he comes in, has the big run late, and that kind of made the bottom line look really good. We can't necessarily say what he is right now, Ray. I mean, I don't know if he's Rashad Penny. I don't know if he's Chris Carson. Like, we're hoping here. But the situation is extremely nice. The situation is extremely viable. Now, the Seahawks have surprised offensively. Like, we got another good game from Geno Smith. You're right, Ray. Coming into the season, I thought, man, this is going to be a lot of Rashad Penny. If Penny goes down, this is going to be a lot of Kenneth Walker. I don't know now. Like, I look at Seattle, Ray, and it's hard to deny the success they're getting from Geno Smith throwing the football. And considering the inability of their defense to get off the field, or about the only time they get off the field is when they're headed to the sideline after giving up another touchdown. But Ray, they just can't stop anybody. Seattle may be forced to throw way more than we would expected, say, 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a really weird thing because their defense is not good, as we both hinted at here. But in the 5 games, Geno Smith has thrown 30, 30, 28, and 25 passes in 4 of the games. Once he threw 44 passes, but in 4 of the 5 games, it's 30 or lower. So even though they're scoring all these points, even though their defense sucks, it's not a volume passing attack. They've been, and it's something we've all talked about, right? Geno Smith, setting potentially records for completion percentage. He looks good. He's stepping up in the pocket. He's making reads. He's going through his progressions. We saw that many times yesterday. He's playing very well at the quarterback position. So it's eerily reminiscent to Russell Wilson pre-Denver Broncos, right? It's 30 passing attempts, it's 262 yards, it's 2 touchdowns. Like, that's what we're getting. So yeah, I still think that the only way Seattle stays in games is they got to tramp this down. They can't be running up and down the field with people trying to score 40 points. It's just not going to work. Walker is in a great spot to be 15-plus touches a week, potentially more, with the Seattle Ball Club with the injury to Penny.
So is this a fab budget buster, Ray? You blow it? I mean, let's say you're sitting on $80. Mm-hmm. Is this like the guy you'd go $60-65 on?
At this point of the year, because injuries are here, we're now starting bye weeks too, right? So that starts getting reflected. And all these people that, you and I have been saying this, all the people that have been giving up their running back depth, right? Their 5th running back, their 6th running back in trades or the way where you're going to start realizing you really need that now that we're in the bye weeks. So I would say, yeah, this is a budget buster. But again, should have been on a roster a week ago. So I feel bad for people that have to blow the budget now, because if he was on the waiver wire, he should have just added him last week. But yeah, this is 50%, 60%. Let's have at it. We got to keep money left. It's only week 6, but be extremely aggressive with Kenneth Walker.
Worth noting as well, in very limited playing time, 6 receptions for Kenneth Walker. So he's been used in the receiving game leading up to this point. So that's another positive feature. But again, the news on Penny, and I shouldn't say, hey, just drop Rashad Penny. Hopefully by the time we get to Wednesday and you're running waiver wires, we're going to know. But the reporting this morning is that Penny's probably going to be out for the season. Not totally official, but it is trending in that direction. Seahawks with a loss. Ray was talking about bye weeks. Their bye is not until week 11. So you get a good run here with Kenneth Walker over the next 4 to 5 weeks. If you're wondering about who the Seahawks play next, let's see. We've got Arizona, the Chargers, the Giants, Arizona again. 2 of their next 4 games going up against the Arizona Cardinals. And Ray, as we continue to recap what went down on Sunday, let's go to the desert. If it's not Josh Gordon, if it's not Taysom Hill, it's Kyler Murray. And man, oh man, Ray, I think Murray's kind of lucky that we have other things going on in the football world today. Like Matt Rule's been fired in Carolina. The roughing of the passer call on Tom Brady. We still have Monday Night Football. The Eagles are 5-0. The Giants are surprising. Like there's all these other storylines going on. And it maybe gives Kyler Murray just a teensy-weensy bit of a pass. But Ray, he is catching a lot of heat today. And I'm sure you're going to give him some heat from that game against Philadelphia.
Yeah. The worst contract in professional sports history. I'm calling it right now. Is this Kyler Murray contract?
No.
The worst contract in professional sports history. He is straight up a loser. Straight up. And, hey, man, more power to the guy. Go play Call of Duty or whatever you want to do. But he is a loser. And I said it before. I said it, we talked about this, the Dan Patrick interview with him years ago before he stepped on the football field. I said, nope, out. And the troubling thing now is it's not just the football stuff. His fantasy stuff ain't happening either. Like in the old days, it's like, well, you played a crappy football game. We'll still love you in the fan. You're not doing anything. He's doing nothing. And when you see the team collapsing around him, they got to get rid of Kingsbury. They have to, because they can't get rid of Kyler Murray. It's impossible, right? They got to get rid of the head coach, because this is a disaster. And it keeps going. It's that car accident you can't turn away from on the freeway. It just keeps happening. Kyler Murray, for those people that missed it, is leading the offense down, right? Late in the game, they're trying to tie the game up, win the game. All right. What does Kyler Murray do? Okay. On 2nd down, he runs for a 1st down. The game is on the line. We got a minute left in this football game. They're driving to try to win a football game. He slides short of the 1st down marker. He could have stayed up. He could have got another 4 yards if he was willing to take a hit. He slid short of the 1st down. So he then scrambles back to the line of scrimmage. There was 28 seconds, 6 seconds, whatever the hell was left. Scrambles back to the line of scrimmage, gets everyone set, takes the snap, downs the ball. It's 4th down now. What are you doing? You had 26 seconds. You couldn't throw an out route.
Yeah, and what I guess he ended up about a foot short of the first down marker.
He could have made it easy.
I have heard, Ray. Maybe you've heard this. The scoreboard said first down. The Arizona scoreboard said first down incorrectly. The pylons did not switch. They said fourth down. The refs knew. The refs made the call. It was fourth down. Where is the coaching staff on this too?
Yelling in his ear?
I get it on Kyler Murray. I get this. This is bad on Kyler Murray. It looks bad. A quarterback's got to be in charge. He's got to know the situation. There are some excuses, but they are excuses. Okay, I'm not giving the guy a pass. They are excuses. You got to get the play done. I know people have a lot of problems with that play, Ray. I got to say, the one that's more disconcerting to me is 2 plays before that, when he literally has Zach Ertz. There is nobody within 10 yards of Zach Ertz on what would be a 25-yard completion, and he can't make the pass. That right there is alarming. Like the mental stuff, okay, it's a concern, but it's kind of more of the same. And there are other guys there, like you got to, what do they have on the sideline? 60 people? Like somebody's got to make sure he knows it's fourth down. But Ray, I look at that pass to Ertz, and it's like he's wide open. Mm-hmm. And that would have put them even further than the slide. Right. You know, they would have been right there. And so you throw all this together, and it is bad. But what is the solution? Like in the fantasy game, Ray, mm-hmm. I don't know if you're turning to anybody else. Like if you have Kyler Murray, you drafted him as your QB1. What are you turning to? I still feel like Murray has better potential than so many of those QB2s. Like it's a really tough decision, especially with Arizona getting Seattle next. Like you got to play him, don't you? Yeah. Like we can sit here and complain about the real life stuff, but in the fantasy world, it's like you still have to play Kyler Murray, just like the Cardinals still have to play Kyler Murray.
And this does speak to the fact that I've talked about it all the time, that we really should consider, and everyone shouts me down every time I suggest it, really should consider changing the way we record scoring, because there is no possible way you can watch an NFL football game with Kyler Murray and be impressed. Can't. It does not happen. He is a bad quarterback.
Unless they're down 2 touchdowns, Ray, whenever they throw everything out the window, and they really just go no huddle. And that is not, I've said this before, you've said that you can't survive that way in the NFL, but that's the only way Arizona really knows how to play is to just, street ball it and just play a very un-NFL like offense. That's the only way Arizona ever has success. And even for Kyler Murray, it seems like the only way he has success is if they're no huddle and they're rushing to the line of scrimmage in the second quarter.
Yeah. And, again, I don't think he's got a command of the offense. I don't think the coaching staff's doing a good job preparing him. I don't think they're doing a good job with play calling. It's like you said, you got 60 people on the sidelines. No one can scream, don't down the ball. The bottom line is he's still a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah.
So, and this, again, goes to my point. We need to do a better job recording success on the football field because he is not a top 10 NFL quarterback. Not even close to being a top 10 NFL quarterback right now. But he's still a starter in the fantasy game. He's still a guy you fire up every week. You just got to grin and bear it. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, so Kyler Murray will probably hear plenty of cat calls, boo birds, all that stuff. You're right on Kingsbury. We may see a move in the next few weeks if things don't turn around. But remember, Dr. Seahawks, that's the next matchup. They're good for everything that ails you offensively. Dr. Seahawks defense. So you still got to roll with Murray. My takeaway from this game, and it's really only a, hey, told you, Ray, it's a 100% nasty regression with James Conner scoring touchdowns. Like last year, 18 touchdowns. We all said it till we're blue in the face. You can't do that again. Ray's got 1 touchdown through 5 games. And I know yesterday he came up lame. That's another part of the James Conner storyline. So we have entered full James Conner. That was a guy that a lot of people took a very aggressive stand on this year. A lot of people still love Conner. They thought they were getting a discount. There's really no discount paying off here, Ray. It's 1 touchdown through 5 games. He's already been beat up. He's got the ribs now. I think he had an ankle earlier. So this is kind of what James Conner is. Last year was the outlier. This is more of the Conner we should expect to see.
Yeah, and to be slightly fair, okay, DeAndre Hopkins has missed the whole season, right? Rondell Moore just came back. So they haven't had all their weapons on offense. Okay, that's fair.
Is Hopkins going to make a big difference? Because I hear that all the time with this team, Ray. Like, they need DeAndre Hopkins. They got to have Hopkins. Nobody must have watched last season, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Hopkins didn't do anything for like half the year. He was far, and I know the standard is sky high, but Ray, he wasn't even like a wide receiver 2 for half of last season.
Yeah, and the real, and I don't know what's going on, and that has been something that I said this in the off. I said it last year and through the off season. We have a problem with Kyler Murray being a superstar, theoretically. We have a problem with everyone loving Cliff Kingsbury in his offense, and them taking the guy who has the best hands in football and turning him into a 4-catch, 40-yard player, which is what they did with DeAndre Hopkins last season. So, I don't know. I mean, Kyler Murray has no problem making easy reads to the tight end and throwing 10 targets a week. He has no problems throwing it to his best friend for life 10 times a week, even though he stands 5'9". He's got no time doing that, but he can't throw the ball 7 times a week to a guy going to the Hall of Fame? I don't know. So I'd like to think it certainly will help, but it didn't help enough last year when they had him out there the whole time.
Big win for the Eagles. Still the only undefeated team in football, 5-0 after that 20-17 victory. Although Arizona did cover it. That was my big call. Arizona's going to win straight up. They didn't do that, but they very easily could have. Ray, I mentioned Carolina. News this morning following yesterday's beatdown. I couldn't believe how well the Niners just destroyed the Panthers. But this morning, Ray, we have seen that Matt Rule has been given his walking papers. Now, occasionally we can sit here and dispute, oh, you shouldn't have fired the guy. Ray, I can't dispute this one. Adios, 38 games. I know that's 2.5 seasons, less than actually. But Ray, they have gone nowhere but backwards. There is nothing to hang their hat on right now. The offense is miserable, and that was supposed to be what Matt Rule knew. I bought into some Matt Rule hype a couple of years back. I thought he was going to be able to take what he did at Baylor and apply it to the NFL game. No way. It's been a disaster. I don't know if there's something in season that can change. I would argue no. You got Baker Mayfield limping around. Maybe that's going to be a godsend for the Panthers. They'll be able to go to Sam Darnold. But the firing has occurred. And, Ray, I think it's well-deserved. Yesterday, that Niners team, it was 37-15. I felt like it was 57-15. I mean, that was just from the first snap of the game, that was all San Francisco just shoving it down the throat of the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, it was. And it's really interesting. The Bears are averaging 17 points a game this year on offense. The Bears, who suck. Matt Rule was 1-27 when the opponent scored 17 points. I mean, again, I think this was a choice they should have made before the season started, because the way it's gone, is anyone surprised by this?
That would have been a little too quick, Ray.
Okay.
I feel, unless it's a utter shipwreck, every NFL coach deserves 2 years. And remember, Ray, he went out and they made the Mayfield move, and McCaffrey was going to be healthy. But think about this, Ray. Mayfield's been healthy, terrible. McCaffrey's been healthy. It's fine. Like, fantasy players are okay with it, but it hasn't been really Christian McCaffrey. It's been like, what would you say, 85% of a typical McCaffrey, which is, again, it's fine, probably an RB1. But, Ray, he's been out there, and they still can't move the football. It's like he's just another dude, and this offense is one of the 2 or 3 worst in the entire game.
Yeah, and, some of this is coaching. Some of this is lack of health. Some of this is quarterback play. I mean, this is Baker Mayfield has played really bad football, and there's no way around that. We can sugarcoat it, make excuses, shoulders this and injury, but he has not played good football. And, in 2022, you can win in the NFL with moderate quarterback play. It's really hard to win with poor quarterback play. And a lot of it, falls on the coaching staff ultimately. You don't fire players, but yeah, the players haven't exactly stepped up at times either.
So that's kind of what's going on with Carolina. Both of our fantasy takeaways, Ray, are on the other side with San Francisco. I mentioned they played really, really well. My takeaway is this. Everything worked for the Niners yesterday. They dominated from the first snap. They looked great making the West Coast to East Coast trip on a short week. Like, remarkable. They looked really good. Despite 37 points, despite the fact that everything was efficient, was working well. Jimmy Garoppolo, Ray, and this is no knock on Jimmy. This is trying to explain what he is in the fantasy world. I cannot think of a better setup, performance, finish than what Garoppolo had going yesterday, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at it from a fantasy perspective, it's very boring. Mm-hmm. Because that's like the high water mark. Like, that's as good as it can get for Jimmy Garoppolo. And you look at this final line, 2 touchdowns, great. No interceptions, great. He had completions. I think it was like a third of his completions went for 15 yards or more. Like, this is awesome, Ray. But in the grand scheme of things, it's really nothing. It's survivable. Okay, it's, 18, 20 points. But that's like the high water mark for a Garoppolo, performance in this offense.
Yeah, and there are teams out there that, we said in the preseason with all the coaching breakdowns and all the analysis over at fantasyguru.com, this is the team you want to target the passing attack. This is the team you want to target the rushing attack. This was a very clear scenario where, yes, you get Deebo Samuel. Yeah, we go George Kittle because the position is weak, but the Niners are about the running game. Mm-hmm. No one should have ever assumed anything different, whether it was Trey Lance or not. And I know a lot of people looked at Trey Lance and, newsflash, Trey Lance wasn't going to be throwing the ball 38 times a week. Trey Lance was going to be making his money as a runner. It wasn't going to be with the wide open passing attack. This was not an offense with the Niners to go to for pass catchers other than Deebo and Kittle. And we see it play out exactly that way. And you're right. The Niners played a great game. It's 2 great games in a row. They beat the Rams handily too. They played really good football. Garoppolo has done what they asked him to do, which is not turn the ball over and lead the offense. And he is a bye-week fill-in. He's an injury fill-in. He's a second quarterback in a 2 QB league, but that's all he is.
What's your takeaway from the big win by San Francisco?
Let's remember that Elijah Mitchell will be returning soon, okay? But I find this really interesting. Like, Elijah Mitchell went out last year, and it was 1880 every week. 1880, 1880, 1880. This year, it's Jeff Wilson. What are we getting? 1880, 1880, 1880. It was 120 yards and a touchdown yesterday. I know a lot of people are probably going to run to the waiver wire because Tevin Coleman scored twice. I get it. Yeah. He's the backup running back to the backup running back, though. Let's not forget that. And let's also not forget that the guy that was thought to be the backup potentially when the season began, TDP, is also hurt. So Coleman is he's here because he knows the system and the coaching staff. He was just wearing street clothes recently, right? He wasn't even on an NFL roster. He is a guy that I guess in theory you could play starting this week because of bye weeks, I guess, right? Until Mitchell is back, until TDP is back. But be careful that you don't, it's another one of the Taysom Hill things. If you want to bid 5% on Tevin Coleman, have at it. If you're going to aggressively bid on Coleman, you're going to be disappointed. It's not going to work. He only played 19 snaps yesterday. He only ran 7 routes yesterday. In comparison, Wilson doubled him in routes and doubled him in snaps. So be cautious with Coleman. It was a great effort, but don't go chasing.
Does a Mitchell owner, Ray, need to fear his role when he's eventually back? Because Wilson's doing everything Elijah Mitchell did. Mm-hmm. Does it go back to being Mitchell's spot in the backfield, or do you think Wilson has done enough to where the Niners kind of reassess and say, let's keep these guys fresh. Let's try to keep them healthy. We've always had issues keeping them on the field. Let's use both these guys. I'm kind of seeing enough from Wilson, Ray, to feel like when Mitchell comes back, we'll get a lot of both of these guys in this offense. Maybe more like a Zeke Pollard thing where you see both guys off there, probably more of Mitchell. But it's really hard to take away these opportunities from Wilson with what we've seen over the past month or so.
Yeah, and let's face it, we don't know, and it's the shenanigans thing. We don't know, right, what they're going to do. We know, as we have said, you and I have sat here and talked about this for years, literally years. And I have said the whole time, whoever's there is the guy you want. And it's played out that way the whole time with 5 different running backs, right? I think, I'm still of the opinion that the situation in the backfield would result in Elijah Mitchell, when healthy, being the guy. I'm still of that opinion. Now, am I certain with that? I probably 75-25. Because I do think the Niners love what they saw from him last year. I think they're a little more confident in him than in Wilson, but I still think they look at Wilson as a little bit of a backup. I don't think they really want to go 12 carries each guy each week. I don't think Wilson ever really has a chance to take over the backfield. So I still am Team Mitchell, but it's close.
San Francisco probably looking the best of everybody right now in the NFC East. You had the Rams lose. We'll get to that game in just a bit. You had the Cardinals lose. You had the Seahawks lose. And they are healthy. 37-15, the victory there. Again, Matt Rule has been fired. Also, it looks like we have an official word on Rashad Penny. And Ray, that official word is done for the year. So there it is. It wasn't official till just now, but Pete Carroll is saying broken fibula for Rashad Penny, and that's it for his season.
Yeah, you got a couple of big bones in your leg. You break one of those, so
Yeah.
now we got to worry about, him healing and returning to the NFL. It's one thing to heal up and, obviously walk down the street. It's another thing to take hits in the NFL. So we'll see what he can do moving forward. But it sounds like you said, his season is done this year. It is certainly Mr. Walker time with Seattle.
Okay, might as well round up our NFC West rundown by touching on the Rams. Another loss. Man, oh man, too many of these losses right now for the Rams. Dallas goes into LA and wins at 22-10. Ray, my takeaway here is how quiet Rams offense has been. It's crazy. I saw a number 1 touchdown in the last 9+ quarters. They have scored of any defending Super Bowl champ. And think about this. We've got like 53, 54 Super Bowl champs, whatever the number is. I lose track. But Ray, they have 80 points in 5 games. That is the 5th fewest ever by a Super Bowl champ. Now you might say, well, that happens to every. This offense was still supposed to be really good. Nobody came into this year, Ray, and said, man, the Rams lost too much from that Super Bowl team. How is this offense going to score? Nobody said that. Everybody was expecting the same old with the Rams. Sean McVay was too brilliant for them not to be great. Right now, Ray, it is Cooper Kupp and nothing with this offense. That's all it is. And Kupp, to his credit, still gets his. But Ray, it's almost like this offense is so fixated on Cooper Kupp that nothing else goes on. We always have this choice for defenses. Do we worry about this guy and let the other guys beat us? Or do we say, let that guy do his thing and we'll make sure nobody else beats us? Right now, the defenses are saying, we can't stop Kupp. Let him do his thing. We'll pull him down as soon as we can. So all these other guys will stop. And the Rams have not found another avenue. And their schedule has been tough. I get it. But that happens to every Super Bowl team. And I know that the concerns we have with this offense, Ray, are mainly under center at this point. And I know that's where you're going with your fantasy takeaway. And I'm sure you'll say this. We can all complain about Stafford and the numbers, Ray, but the dude is getting murdered. Like there's no way he's making it to week 10 at this pace right now.
Yeah, and that is my takeaway. Am I a Stafford backer? Yes. Did I think his arm was going to be fine? Yes. Has his arm been fine? Absolutely. His arm's totally fine. The elbow issue that we were all concerned about is not a thing. However, everything else is a massive concern. And as much as I have to support at Stafford, I have him in a couple leagues. I've supported him when people have asked questions here, when they've asked questions at fantasyguru.com. I'm no longer supporting Stafford. I can't. It has nothing to do with Matt Stafford. He's totally fine. The offense is broken. Straight broken. And we've been talking about this for weeks now. There are teams in the NFL whose offenses are broken. And this one is broken. This offensive line somehow is only 31 out of 32 in pass blocking over at Pro Football Focus. I have no idea how the Titans are worse. Because like you said, Matthew Stafford they can't even set a pocket, right? They can't. And he's getting hit on every play. There were about 4 times yesterday where it looked like he got knocked out of the game. So he soldiered through it. This offensive line is horrible. The coaching staff and Sean McVay, you guys, you suck straight. I mean, you're the Super Bowl champ, and this is what you're putting out there. Like when you're going well, everyone loves you. And we've joked around if you used a urinal next to Sean McVay once, you have a coaching job in the NFL. Where's Boy Wonder? Where is it? There's nothing. This offense is horrible. They can't establish the run. They can't establish anyone out wide other than Cooper Kupp. They can't set a pocket for Matthew Stafford. This offense is straight broken. And it looks like a 12-point victory by the Cowboys yesterday. They got throttled yesterday by a team that threw the ball 16 times.
Yeah.
They got throttled yesterday. It wasn't even a game.
And, I watch this team, Ray, and I will say this. They are very creative, I feel, at getting the ball into Kupp's hands. But that's it. It's like all they care about is getting Cooper Kupp the ball and scheming for him, and they don't have anything else in the playbook. Yeah. It's just Cooper Kupp. And again, they do a good job of it, but Ray, none of these receivers, the Allen Robinson thing, we won't even get that question this week, Ray. Should I drop him or not?
He's gone.
Like it's over.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll revisit it come week 12, but it is shocking to me how they swung and missed on that one, right? I mean, gosh, for a team that it seemed like last season had like 3 big weapons as wide receivers, and oh my God, how were you going to figure out a way to stop the Rams? They have just totally lost it with their wide receivers. It's crazy. Like they almost went into the season saying, well, we'll just, we're too smart. It doesn't matter who we have as the wide receiver 2 or 3. It'll work. It always works. And like they go out and get Robinson and you think, okay, this is a good spot for him. They found something with Robinson. They'll scheme him up. We'll get a ton. Nothing. Like Ray, it's went out and they fooled us all because that is the junkiest signing of the offseason, right? It's the worst money spent thus far. Well, outside of Kyler Murray's extension.
Russell Wilson's pretty close right now too, Kyle.
Yeah. Well, the free agent then. We'll call it free agent signing. Like the Allen Robinson thing, it's like they signed him and they just thought, oh, it'll happen. We just need to put him on the field opposite of Cooper Kupp and it'll happen. It is dead. Well, there's like not a highlight this year for Allen Robinson through 5
And the Rams have done what? They've signed and brought people in. What have the Rams developed? I don't know. What has Sean McVay developed as the Rams head coach?
Well, and maybe that's why they don't need draft picks, Ray.
Well, and think of it, because if Allen Robinson can't get it done, right? You got Ben Skoranek here, who, right or wrong, is your third receiver. Oh, Ray's your third receiver. He plays 90% of the snaps every week. Every single week. They win a 3 wide receiver base offense. He is out there every play. Yesterday was only the second time this season he hit 30 yards. If Robinson can't get it done, why are we not getting the ball to Skoranek, who again plays every snap, who runs all the routes? Why is he not part of the offense? Why? So you start thinking about this, and it's, we can talk about the offensive line play. We can talk about Stafford. This is coaching and play calling. Straight up. And we see this around the NFL, and we'll continue to talk about it in our review. There are teams that seemingly this offseason forgot how to scheme offenses. And it's something that we talked about an awful lot. Again, we discussed this over and over and over again at fantasyguru.com. 10 new head coaches, 16 new offensive coordinators, 14 new defensive coordinators this year. Half the league was changed. There are teams out there that made these changes, and it simply has not worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know everybody keeps talking about the slow start. This is no longer a start, Ray. Like, we're 5 weeks in, and all these offenses are down. Like, moving from this Rams loss, let's go to the Sunday night game. Fun game to watch, entertaining, down to the wire, all that. Baltimore gets the last-second kick by Kyle Tucker. They win it 19-17. But Ray, both these offenses, there's nothing there. And I get it's just one game, that AFC North battle. And usually these are, bang heads, bang bodies, yank them down kind of affairs. They're physical. But I'm watching, like, for instance, the Bengals, and that's where my fantasy takeaway is. Jamar Chase has kind of been like McCaffrey, Ray. It's fine. But it's nothing like people thought it would be. And you look at, remember last season, it was all like deep plays, things, 50 yards, 60 yards, and 70. And we remember those moments, those highlights, like you couldn't stop Jamar Chase coming off the line of scrimmage. He would just beat his man and race down the sideline. This year, Ray, they can't get anything deep with Jamar Chase. And we thought this game against the Ravens would be it. Mm-hmm. Now, remember that the Dolphins got things deep on the Ravens. Nothing. I was looking it up with Jamar Chase, Ray. His long catches this year per game, 24, 17, 10, 38, and then last night, 13. And you can look at his average yards per reception. Ray, it's almost half of what it was last year. So I don't know who's to blame, but that big play potential totally gone through 5 weeks. It's shocking that the Bengals can't get that part of their offense to work. Like the Rams have issues. The team they beat in the Super Bowl, the Bengals, a lot of issues here early on. It's a real stuttering offense. It's not been a disaster, but it's like the things that made the Bengals good last season, they're not really there. This offense is not clicking at all for Cincy.
It doesn't help that T. Higgins barely played last night, right? That's a huge weapon they were without. But you saw, like, they talked to Burrow after the game. He's like, well, the way the defenses are playing, change what you're doing. Yeah. Yes, newsflash, NFL head coaches and quarterbacks. Defenses adjust when they see what you're doing. You have to have another plan. You can't just do the exact same. Come on, man.
Well,
And
at least they're not giving up on shit. What do you have? 12 targets last night?
Yeah.
Like they're at least throwing him, because we see some teams, Ray. It's like, oh, we don't know. We're not gonna. So at least that's like it kind of speaks to my Chase is fine,
right?
But we got 1 touchdown through 5 weeks. We don't have near the yardage we thought we would have through 5 weeks. Catches are there. That's all. But man, it's like, where are the scores and where are the big plays for this offense?
Yeah, taking away week 1, he's averaging 5.5 catches and 53 yards. Whoopee. I mean,
he's Marvin Jones.
Yeah, he's Cole Beasley. I mean, this is like, come on. And you're right. They tried to get him involved. They gave him a handoff, But again, it's really weird because there are a lot of high-end fantasy players that are underperforming this year. They're not awful, like you're saying. Chase isn't awful, but they're underperforming this year. And we sit here on a Monday, we start getting news throughout the day. We'll hear the pressers later in the day and all that. And how many times a week do we hear a coach say, well, we got to do a better job of getting the ball?
Yeah.
They say, it's your freaking job to do this. Stop telling us after the game we blew it. How about you do it before the game starts so it actually can happen? I'm so tired of it.
Or how about when you have 3 plays from the 2-yard line, you try to give Joe Mixon a carry? Maybe once. He's averaging like 6 yards a pop. You try. Instead, we're running the Philly special from the 2. It's like, okay, what's your takeaway from this one, right?
Yeah, this is kind of like Kyler Murray in the sense that Lamar Jackson is still a special fantasy weapon. Okay. But this offense, too, is a mess. I mean, Rashad Bateman was out last night, and that hurts. But I continue to say that. You continue to say this. There are plays on the field. Lamar Jackson was missing wide open guys last night.
Mm-hmm.
Wide open guy. Who was it? Was it Wallace Lade? Who was it? Lade? He missed him. He had a 50-yard touchdown. He overthrew him by 15 feet. He is really struggling. He cannot throw the ball outside the hash marks. Can't do it. And when defenses realize that, and they start funneling everything toward the center of the field, you just got to start doing misdirections and reverses and balls in the backfield to DuVernay, or just throwing it to Mark Andrews, who somehow has scored 2 touchdowns where no one's covered him this year. This offense is not working through the air, at least. And you look at the numbers with Lamar Jackson. How many people realize that 4 or 5 games, he hasn't thrown for 220 yards?
But let me stop you there, Ray.
Yeah.
Is it any different than what we've seen from Lamar Jackson the last 4 years? Like, that's what I don't. You're right. It didn't look good last night. He hasn't got a lot of passing yardage, but like, that's his career. That's like, we've kind of seen that same dude every year where you feel good about him, and then he turns in a dud of 170 yards, and then you say, oh my God, what are they going to do? And then they always figure it out as they go through the course of the season.
Despite what Chris Collinsworth said 18 times last night about how good of a quarterback Lamar Jackson is, sorry, Ravens fans, he's really not.
Yeah, he's a
really
hell
not.
of a player.
He's a hell of a player.
Great player.
He's a great player. He's a dynamic fantasy option. He's a superstar, but he's not. He sits in the pocket. He can't make passes. And remember, 2 weeks ago against the Bills, it was the same thing. These are just 2 terrible games in a row for him. He's got 2 touchdown passes, 3 picks. He's missing wide open receivers all over the field. The last 2 weeks, what he averaged? 160 passing yards. Like, okay. And again, you fire him up. He's a quarterback. I'm just saying, we got big time problems in this offense right now. It's not working through the air.
Do you think, though, it's no different? I don't look at it and say, like, if I'm a Lamar Jackson owner, Ray, okay, last night it wasn't great, but thankfully he got some cheap rushing yardage late, and that kind of saved the day from a fantasy perspective. But like, to me, Ray, there's nothing to do except wait for Lamar Jackson to be Lamar Jackson. Like, I have zero concern that like this offense will continue to have more performances like last night, because I've seen it before. Like, I look at the Rams, I'm more concerned about them finding an answer. Even the Bengals, Ray, I'd say, gosh, that's an offense where are the answers, man? Where are they? With the Ravens, it's just more Ravens. It's just the Ravens being the Ravens, Ray. They still got their win. That's what they're going to tell you about. Right. We still got the win. And Lamar Jackson, to me, will still fine. I have said a few times this year, number 1 fantasy quarterback, the guy I'm picking is Lamar Jackson. That's who I said coming into the year, he'll finish number 1. I don't hesitate to say that again at all, Ray. I'd still sit here right now, and you're right, last night was ugly. I'd still sit here and say, that's where I'd put my money. Number 1 fantasy QB, Lamar Jackson.
No, it's going to be Josh Allen. But to your point, I'm looking at the Dynasty League scoring right now. Lamar Jackson's number 2. I mean, it's just, it's just how it is. But so there's that dividing line, right? Like, real world, fantasy world, projecting out. There's no problem with Lamar Jackson. I'm just saying that he's playing some ugly football right now. And if indeed he ever tweaks a knee, sprains an ankle, if he can't do that piece of the game and they try to make him a pocket quarterback at any point, it's not going to work.
19-17, and Kyle Tucker keeps talking trash. Ray wants to get rid of place kickers. We're getting a chance to enjoy and watch and be there in the moment. The greatest place kicker of all. And Ray doesn't want him a part of our fantasy game. For shame, Ray Flowers. For shame.
Jeff Mans wrote him up in his week 5 recap at fantasyguru.com. And I think I'm paraphrasing, and it's not what he said. But he basically said he's like the most valuable player in football. And he wins like 2 or 3 games himself every year. Like the team sucks and nothing. And he goes, there's quarterbacks out there that don't win 2 or 3 games a season.
Well, and like, we touched on this middle of last week. We had all those kickers that were injured, and most of them, made it to the finish line for Sunday. But Ray, we see these backup kickers like the Amendola kid with Arizona. And even, I don't even, who was the kicker for Philly yesterday? Because both those guys, Ray, both of those guys, the guy kicking for Philadelphia, the guy kicking for Arizona, are on their 3rd team this year.
Yeah, already.
It's week 5, and these guys are back. And you look at Kyle Tucker, Ray, and it's like, man, that's a stud. And what's the number now? We're 61 consecutive field goals made in the 4th quarter, or OT. That is bonkers. So maybe he is the most valuable player. What are the odds at DraftKings on
MVP?
Kyle Tucker?
I don't think he's going to be in the MVP. Is that what you're looking at?
Well, I'm looking it up, Ray, and I figured that I'm just going to tell you, I thought I would see Kyle Tucker's name on this list before I would see Mitch Trubisky's. But Mitch Trubisky is actually higher on the MVP list than Kyle Tucker is. Now, Mitch Trubisky is plus 25,000. I'm not seeing Tucker, and I'm at least 100 guys through, Ray. I'm seeing Bud Dupree. I'm seeing David Montgomery. I'm seeing Tyler Conklin as an MVP. Ray, Odell Beckham Jr. has better MVP odds than Kyle Tucker.
It does even show
up. Oh, yeah, Kyle. I keep saying Kyle. Thank you, Henry V. I'm in my baseball mode. Justin Tucker. Ray, maybe we should get rid of kickers. I just went like 3 minutes calling the dude Kyle.
Well, I looked and I did a global search. His odds are worse than plus 50,000.
Plus 50,000.
Worse than that or better than that, depending on how you look at it.
I can't find him anywhere, and there are hundreds of players.
Yeah, no, I searched Kyle. He's not on the list. Yeah.
Hey, Taysom Hill is only 50,000, right? That might not be a bad call right now. Going Taysom Hill as an MVP.
How about Clyde Edwards-Helaire if we're actually going to try to pick a guy at 50,000, or Gabe Davis now?
Gabe Davis, why not? At 50,000, I was like, there you go. Okay, let's go to Gabriel Davis, Ray. The Buffalo Bills totally throttling the Pittsburgh Steelers. Welcome to the NFL, Kenny Pickett. Although the guy had over 300 yards, 38-3, the final. And my takeaway, Ray, is actually with Gabe Davis. It's like, you cannot bench the guy. He is one of these players. Tyler Lockett's gone through this. Gabe Davis is this. You have to play him. Like I said last week, we were going into week 5. We were talking about the Bills, talking about Gabriel Davis. And I sat here, Ray, and I said, wow, he looks a lot like he did last season through the first 5 weeks. He's not doing anything. But you know what? You still play him. You have to. We saw it. We saw it twice. Hell, we saw it 3 times yesterday. The guy is a huge play threat. And really, Ray, you can't look at what he did yesterday and say, oh, yeah, that's repeatable. It isn't. It's not repeatable. But it's those big smash efforts, those big bang Sundays that you just cannot miss out on. He needs to be, and I don't care about the matchup, none of that. You're working with Josh Allen. You just play Gabriel Davis. You just send him in there. You do the same with Stephon Diggs, obviously. I guess the question would be, Ray, do you do now the same with Khalil Shakir? Khalil Shakir showing up with a big effort. Davis is a guy, you got him, folks, you send him in there. I've got him in a 16-teamer. Never once am I thinking about benching him. I drafted him because of his big play threat. Have to be in there. But now, Ray, I guess we have Khalil Shakir, and considering Crowder's out, they had no Knox. Who knows when we see McKenzie again? Maybe Khalil Shakir is that sneaky waiver ad.
Yeah, in the FSGA league this week, I added Hayden Hurst because I lost Kyle Pitts, and I added Shakir, and I played them both. So that went a long way to my
Hey,
victory this week.
Very nice, Ray. You
Yeah.
might want to retire, spike the football, and be done with it.
Boom. Yeah, Shakir, is someone, and it's funny. I saw Jeff Mans write about this too. Like people were saying, oh, everyone was in on Shakir. He had like a 2% ownership rate in DFS. So not everyone was in on him, even with the low price point.
Well, we deal with the 1%ers. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone that listens to this,
from the general fantasy football player.
Shakir, and we said this, like you mentioned, Crowder was out, McKenzie was out, so Shakir played the slot, and it's a position that used to be manned by Cole Beasley. We've talked about that. This is a spot in this offense that produces. Is it explosive? No. It was only a handful of catches yesterday for Shakir, but 75 yards and a touchdown, right? So his role, he looks good. He looks fast out there. You see it, right? But McKenzie is not, when he's back from his concussion, he's not going to be benched. So then it becomes a battle of how much do they, how do they work these guys in? What does it look like? So Shakir's a guy that everyone will be talking about this week. Be careful if people are telling you go all in, because again, his role is really determined based upon how McKenzie looks or doesn't look health-wise. It was a good outing. It was a nice hit, but we got to be cautious on that one.
I don't know if people were all over Shakir, Ray, but I hope they were all over my my favorite prop from last week on this game. If you'll recall, I went with Buffalo to score a touchdown on the first drive of the game. Now, Ray, I was actually traveling back from a weekend away, so I was listening to that game on the radio, and they started at the 2-yard line. And I said, Kyle, you blew that prop. That was a dumb prop. And then it was, 3rd and long from the 2. This is not going to. Boom. Just like that. 98 yards later. Cash in a prop on the Buffalo Bills. Okay, your takeaway from the Bills' destruction of all things Pittsburgh. There's not a silver lining anywhere with the Steelers, is there?
Well, I think there's one-ish, but it's actually not a silver lining considering where we began the season with this guy. Let me absolve everyone of a couple of things. Number one, Najee Harris is still the lead back for the Steelers. The only reason that the touch count, the snap counts, the only reason any of that looks good is because Jaren Warren played like the entire fourth quarter when they were behind by 500 points. Okay. The lead running back is still Najee Harris. Number two, in a horrible game, Najee Harris still touched the ball 14 times. Okay. And the last 4 games, he's still averaging 18 touches a week. That's the good news. Now, the bad news is he's been an abysmal failure based upon my expectations, based upon most people's expectations. So I'm not doing any victory laps here. He's been terrible. But the takeaway is still he is the lead running back. And someone in the Discord over fantasyguru.com says, I don't understand your guys' logic. Like, this seems against your guys' logic. And I responded to the gentleman saying, he's touching the ball 18 times a week. When in the last 15 years have you ever heard me say, don't play a guy that touches the ball 18 times a week? You got to play him. The problem with Harris is it's pretty obvious at this point. He's going the Ezekiel Elliott route to running back 2.
In year 2.
Yes, in year 2. And he was drafted as a first-round, second-round pick, so he was drafted as a 1. I think it's very difficult to envision him living up to expectations. I still think he's a weekly starter. I think that despite all the anger and anguish, again, he's the guy. Don't let the box score looking with Warren yesterday change your thoughts on that.
Well, I can't let a Najee Harris moment go by on the show, Ray, without saying what I always say. It's the foot, man. He's hurt. These are ugly numbers. Like his longest run of the year, Ray, this on 70 carries. His longest run is 16 yards. I get it. Your blocking sucks. The O-line's not good. But there's no explosiveness with it. Even watching him, Ray, he looks like Zeke Elliott in year 2.
Well, the problem is, let's look at this too. He's not, his yards before contact is up 0.3 from last year. So, okay. He's not doing anything after contact, to your point. But this offense is
like, in our chat room, it's like, oh, the O-line sucks. Dude, they sucked last year. They were terrible last season.
And the true honest difference here is Ben Roethlisberger. I'm sorry, everyone that hated Ben Roethlisberger, that's the difference. Trubisky and Pickett are not on his level. And we could all get mad that he couldn't complete a 30-yard pass, but what he would do, Ben Roethlisberger would take a 5-step drop or 3-step drop. He'd make a read. He'd throw the ball. They'd get a first down. He would, the offense worked. It's not working now. Pickett was okay yesterday, I guess. He was okay. He didn't do jack anything. He really didn't do anything 2 weeks ago other than have a couple of touchdown runs from 1-yard line that should have been Harris that scored. The offense is not working because the quarterback position is not working right now.
Does he get 1,000 yards this year, Najee Harris? I'm going to say no.
I think he still can. I mean, it might be tight though. Again, he's not living up to my expectations, so I missed. But I still think, again, he's a usable piece.
Let's go to a running back that is not only living up to expectations, but maybe exceeding them, at least exceeding mine. Another big game for Derrick Henry, another win for the Titans, 21-17. My takeaway from this victory on the road at Washington is on the Commanders side, Ray. And I mentioned De'Ami Brown. How many options do the Commanders need, Ray? Like, everything is pie charted here. Like, I don't know what the goal of the offense is. We've got too many dudes, way too many dudes, which maybe that ends up working for Washington. Today, not really. You know, they're kind of the same Commanders. But, Ray, we now have Robinson back. We got Gibson. We got McKissick. We have De'Ami Brown showing up. We've got McLaurin. We got Logan Thomas when he's healthy. We've got Curtis Samuel. We got Jahan Dotson. Too many mouths to feed. And for a fantasy player, Ray, it's a pain in the rump. It really is. Like, I'm not saying De'Ami Brown means anything, but just the simple fact that he's going off while Terry McLaurin's like begging for scraps this year. It hasn't happened for McLaurin, not once. Like, we have a big De'Ami Brown game before we got a big Terry McLaurin game this year. And yes, Wentz has his issues, but they just have too many guys, Ray. Like, too many weapons, and maybe weapons is too much credit. They have too many possibilities in this offense. Like, even the Robinson-Gibson thing, I know everybody's team Robinson now. I get it. But who's to say they're even going to commit to one guy or commit to the run? Or are they even going to be able to use the run if they're constantly trailing by 2 touchdowns? This Commanders offense, it's not bad like some of the other offenses we talked about. It's just there's no A to B to C. There's no ordering of the options. There's no ordering within the attack. It seems to be just kind of thrown out there. And you know what? Hey, maybe it works for them. Maybe they figured it out. But for me, it ain't working, Ray. For the fantasy owner, it's just an offense that's really difficult to kind of stomach every Sunday.
Yeah, and McLaurin's been stable, but like to your point, there's been really nothing. And, you know, this is another one of those situations where we talk about guys sometimes, now they're getting the best quarterback they've ever had. Right? We talked about this with DJ Moore, right? Theoretically, it was Baker Mayfield. Carson Wentz, is he the best quarterback McLaurin's ever worked with? Yeah. McLaurin's 5 catches for 60 yards every week. There's nothing, and it's like you're saying, it's all these other guys going off. And I think that my takeaway, too, is the same thing in the backfield. It's that now we have 3 guys in the backfield we're going to use. And it was the first game back for Robinson. A great story. Everyone knows he was shot a couple times. He made it back. Kudos to him. So it's his first game back. So how much of the usage in week 1 was it's his first game back versus this is the way it's going to be? And the answer is I don't know. And I say that because Gibson obviously led the team with 9 carries last week. If you look at the snap counts, he played 18 snaps. Gibson played 20 snaps. J.D. McKissick played 26 snaps. So we had 3 guys playing basically the same amount of snaps, right? Mm-hmm. My full takeaway is that Antonio Gibson's now a bench option. He's certainly not a starter because, again,
for fantasy, right? For
fantasy purposes. Not saying you drop him because, again, we don't know how this is going to play out, but he's not a starter. That's the real takeaway. But just to your point, with the receiving core in the backfield, it's the same thing. All of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, J.D. McKissick has really asserted himself in this. That's winning football? No, it's not. That's not winning football. That's what they're going to do with the entire team. Makes them theoretically difficult to defend, but it doesn't do us any favors in the fantasy game.
Yeah, I get it, Ray. It's great to have a ton of different guys to use and weapons, and we're building depth and all of that. It's really good, but you still have to have that identity, and they don't really have that. Like, if I said, what do the Commanders like to do on offense? I got no idea. What do the Commanders go into every Sunday trying to do offensively? I don't really know. Like, we know Tennessee, look at the other side. What are they trying to do? Well, everybody knows that. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry left, Derrick Henry right, Derrick Henry catching a pass out of the backfield. Derrick Henry. That's what they're trying to do. But we don't have that with the Commanders. They come up short. So sad to see. Carson Wentz, man. I think he could have thrown like 4 interceptions on that last drive. He only threw 1. But it could have been like 4 or 5. He is, a little short on the decision-making. Loss for Washington. Had a win for Philadelphia. We talked about that. Had a win for Dallas. Talked about that. How about those Giants? They got a win. Let's talk about that one. No surprises in London this weekend. No complaints can be filed, Ray. Now, Ray, did you wake up early to see if there might have been a surprise on the actives and inactives?
Yeah, because I was back to my normal routine on Sunday. I was actually up at 5:58 in the morning, well before the sun. So I was there a long time before. For those people that don't know, on Twitter's on Sunday mornings at SiriusXM Fantasy, I'm the guy that does the start sit. So don't blame Jeff
You
Mans
do
or
it
Bob.
before this game. You don't do it before this game kicks off, do you?
No, I don't do it. I started. It's from 10 to 1 Eastern time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was up and I was awake and I was watching the game. So yeah, I was there theoretically to make a move if one was necessary. I didn't have anyone that was in my lineups that I had to worry about with this game.
Yeah, didn't have to worry about it anyway. So we made it through London unscathed, so you can save your complaints for another week. We actually played a London, and not everyone's pissed off, unless you're the Packers. Maybe you're pissed off there. Big win by the Giants, 27-22. And Ray, my takeaway, and this isn't really fantasy relevant, but I will give it up to the Giants, Ray. That is a tough game to win.
Absolutely.
In the situation they were in. We talk about, oh, that team's tough or that team showed hard or what a great effort. Like, that was a game, Ray, and maybe it's because it was the only game going, so we all had our attention devoted on it. But they honestly had no business winning that game. I mean, with what they were dealing with, Jones was less than 100%. Barkley goes down with a shoulder injury, misses a drive or two. The receiving court, like, Ray, even after watching 4 quarters, I don't know who those receivers are. I really don't. Like, who the hell are, like, Darius Slayton? What? Out of nowhere, Darius Slayton shows up. They had other, like, defensive injuries in that game. Daniel Jones, it was a gutsy, just backbone proof kind of effort by Daniel Jones. So full credit to them. Like, I'm looking at this list, Ray, and it's Marcus Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're using Matt Breida. The Sills guy, Ballinger at tight end, like all this junk. Kudos to them. Now, I am reading things like, oh, the Giants are for real, and oh, the Giants. Remember, this is coming from a guy who said the best sleeper call you can have is the Giants to win the NFC East. Put your money on that. So understand, I'm not picking on. But, Ray, let's not get carried away with one victory. They cannot win with that lineup consistently. That's a bad lineup. It's guys are missing. But, Ray, that's, we were talking about the one-off with Taysom Hill. I consider yesterday a one-off. Like, next week they're playing the Eagles. Or no, is it next week they're the Eagles, Giants, and Eagles? Oh, no, it's Cowboys and Eagles. The Giants, Ray, are a team that no one should fear. I don't care that they are 4-1. Like, that is not a team that you fear. Kudos to them. Trip to London. Everybody's happy, but that's stuff that you can't count on every week.
Oh, absolutely not. But this is the difference between Matt Rule and Brian DeBall. Straight up, this is coaching, right? Because when you have to prepare your team to face the trials and travails of a season, you have to put them in place to succeed. You have to have game plans, all this kind of things, and that's the difference between good coaching and everyone else. And so I don't know. I think that for me would be the takeaway on the Giants side is Brian DeBall and that crew. They're legit. They know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Takeaway on the Packers side, your man found the end zone yet again, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And, it was so funny. I was on, again, I'm on Twitter 10 to 1 on Sunday mornings at SiriusXM Fantasy. And I tweeted out Alan Lazard scores again. And someone had the gall to respond, well, that's all he does. And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of world do we live in where a guy basically scores a touchdown every game? And we're going to bitch about it. Okay. Alan Lazard has scored 8 times in 9 games. He scored 11 times in 14 games. He was the backup receiver to Devontae Adams, the number 1 receiver in football last year. This year, he's had an ankle issue that's hampered him the whole time. You really are going to complain because all he does is score touchdowns? I can't believe what people like. What planet am I living on? Where
Ray, it reminds me of the classic that all got started back in like the 80s and 90s. Remember when Chris Carter, legendary Vikings receiver, he started with the Eagles. I think the Eagles either released him or gave him away for nothing. And they asked Buddy Ryan, what's the issue with Chris Carter? Why'd you get? And you know what he said, Ray? All he does is score touchdowns. So this has been going on for a while. It became the running gag with Chris Carter that all he did. Let's hope Alan Lazard can be just like Chris Carter.
And make the Hall of Fame. And make the Hall of Fame. And by the way, last week he went for 116 yards and 6 catches. So
he does do other things.
He does do other things, Al Lazard. So that's 4 games with a touchdown every game or 115 yards every game. So stop. Don't ask me questions about should you start Alan Lazard. The only way you're not starting him is if you have a 2 wide receiver league and you have 4 top 20 receivers. Otherwise, he's just in your lineup. Stop asking questions about him.
Did you catch the moment they were coming back? I think it was in the fourth quarter. They were coming back from a commercial, Ray, and they showed the imposter Aaron Rodgers,
Mhm.
the guy that was at.
Yep.
That was a spectacular doppelganger. The guy that was sitting in the stands
Mhm.
looked exactly like Aaron Rodgers, Ray. It was
Yep.
so very well done. And considering how the Packers offense looked in the second half, that might have very well been Aaron Rodgers who jumped into the stands for
Yeah.
the second half.
I find it that guy apparently showed up at Lambeau Field once. Was it last year, or the year before? And people were taking pictures with him in the concourse, thinking it was Aaron Rodgers. And so he's now become famous and traveling the world apparently because he looks kind of. Maybe I could dye my beard and grow some hippie hair and wear a hat. And I look like Aaron Rodgers. I don't know, but yeah, that should have been my big take. I'd love watching Aaron Rodgers lose. I don't know who I like watching lose more, Kyler Murray or Aaron Rodgers, but it's both. Let's just go with both.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers needs to go out and sign some more players. As a GM, he needs to get to work. Obviously, the guys he has added in the offseason are not making do. Let's go to Houston, Jacksonville. A thrilling 13-6 win for Houston. Wasn't it thrilling, Ray?
Yes.
Like thrilling is just one word to say. Here's all I got, Ray. There wasn't a lot in this game.
Not a lot.
But I'm just going to say, man, through 5 weeks, the Dameon Pierce excitement has paid off. We are looking at 20 touches a week for Dameon Pierce.
Yep.
And I don't blame the Texans for that. And I love in the fantasy world when things work out the way that so many people thought they would be. I was a little late to the Pierce game. Little late. But I've now arrived, right? Now I arrived a few weeks ago, but I looked this up after yesterday with 26 touches and he's breaking off tackles like crazy. But that's a man back there, Ray. It's a strong rookie season for Dameon Pierce, and I am very happy that the Texans are embracing it. They have that Rex Burkhead moment. That's done. Mm-hmm. That's done. It's just Dameon Pierce and more Dameon Pierce. Kudos to the Texans. We complain about these coaching staffs and these offenses for not using guys, for not making use of the players they should. Dameon Pierce is getting the work he should with Houston. Great numbers. 20 a week right now for Dameon Pierce.
He looked great yesterday. He almost dragged the entire team into the end zone on that one run. I saw a tweet from Pro Football Focus. Missed tackles and missed tackles forced. They claimed that no running back they've ever recorded, since 2005 or whatever, has had a better game than Dameon Pierce yesterday. And yeah, that dude's running hard. He's running strong. He got in the end zone yesterday. He looked good, and he was their offense. You're totally right.
What's your takeaway from this 19-point shootout between the Jags and the Texans?
Oh, man, do we got a problem. We got a big-time problem here, Kyle. We thought the problem was the coaching staff last year. Is the coaching staff the problem this year? Trevor Lawrence looked pretty good the first couple of games. He looked really good, actually, the first couple of games. The last couple of games, Trevor Lawrence, just to put it out there, has played like ass. Okay? Ass.
Is that what the pros say?
Straight
like
up.
Ass?
Yeah. I don't need to break down X's and O's. I'm just going to say it 3 letters. That's all I need. And we are in trouble. He had 2 more interceptions yesterday. One of those interceptions, I mean, guys miss players on the field. It happens, especially when they come off from another receiver and they come running across the field. Especially on the slow-mo replay they showed. Trevor Lawrence is looking right at the receiver, and the dude is standing right there, and he throws it right to him. There's the only way he could have missed is if he literally had his eyes closed because he was directly in front of him where he was throwing the football. He has 7 turnovers in 2 games. He is a disaster all of a sudden. So we were all singing the hosannas of the coaching staff, and last year was behind us and all that. The last 2 weeks, it's been 2021 all over again for Trevor Lawrence. I know people made excuses last week. It was wet. Ain't no excuse yesterday. He just played like ass.
And I guess, Ray, we got to come clean. 2 weeks ago, we all saw what went down against the Chargers, and we were like, wow.
It's on. Yeah.
Look at that. It's looking great. And I was saying, oh, man, if Doug Peterson could go to Philadelphia, they're going to build another statue. It was looking good. And they weren't terrible in Philly. Like you said, the turnovers were terrible. Yesterday, they actually moved the ball. Jacksonville was moving up and down the field. They had a lot of yardage, but the turnovers got them. I kind of expect that from young players. I don't expect those kind of turnovers from a QB making start 20 or something for Trevor Lawrence. Like those were bad moments. I still have hope, but like that's a game yesterday, Ray, where they've got to take care of business there. Like if that team is truly ascending or improving, you don't lose by 7 to the Texans. You can't at home. Give me a break. You cannot have that moment. It was an ugly moment pretty well all around. Let's stay south and go to Tampa. Buccaneers 21-15. They were like dominating this game, and then I kind of left it. And then all of a sudden you look at the scoreboard, it's like, oh my God, we got a game again. My takeaway here, Ray, and there's a lot of things people are talking about. We'll probably get to them later with Brady and all that. But Mariota, Ray, he ain't a quarterback. Like we talk about Kyler Murray or Hurts or Jackson or all these guys. Can they become quarterbacks? Marcus Mariota has had many opportunities, and he still can't throw it. There still isn't a fear of Marcus Mariota when he drops back to throw. He can still run. He can do the busted play kind of thing and find some yardage, but his accuracy is just really bad. Now, usually at this point, right, say, 5 weeks in, it's a crap quarterback. Your team's 1-4. Make the switch to Desmond Ridder. They've been competitive enough to where they won't make the switch. No. Like they've been in a lot of games here. They've got a couple of wins, so they won't make the switch from Mariota. But it's pretty bad, and it hurts London. It hurts Pitts. The backfield had no juice yesterday. None of those guys look good. If that team's going to win, it is going to be like 20-14. I don't see a whole lot of big scoring efforts for the Falcons. And I think a lot of that is on Mariota. He's just not a QB that you have to fear at all throwing. He's not much different from Baker Mayfield, except Mariota can hurt you with his legs. Mayfield can't do that. So, that class of quarterbacks that is just a snooze, that who cares? We can sell out for the run. This guy can't beat us over the top. That is Marcus Mariota, and that is this Falcons offense right now.
Yeah, he's basically Taysom Hill. And, heading into tonight's game on Monday Night Football, he's a top 10 quarterback this week. That's what you get, folks. That's what I'm saying. We got to redo the scoring because everything Kyle said about Marcus Mariota is accurate. All of it. He can't play quarterback, but he's top 10 quarterback in fantasy.
QB sucked this week, by the way. Like, there weren't a lot of good QB efforts. Like, it was a down week for, like, quarterbacks everywhere. Like, Josh Allen at the top, and then the rest of it, Ray, was pretty junky at QB.
It was. I mean, when you got, your top 5 is consisting of Geno Smith and Carson Wentz, who we also talked about not playing a good football game. Yeah, we're going to have some problems. You're right.
Yeah, Mariota in the top 10, I did not know that. That makes the week sound even worse than I thought.
Yeah. 7 carries, 61 yards. Helps an awful lot.
Yeah. What's your takeaway from the near miss by the Falcons down in Tampa?
Yeah, and I'm really happy they didn't win this football game because they, if they would have won this football game, that would have made them think that what they're doing is working. And to your point, it's not working. Yeah. They did a decent job against the Bucs. They gave up some points early and then kept the defense kept the team in the game. And we'll talk later about the roughing the passer thing. But you're without Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts isn't working and all that. We know that fact. But the Bucs and every team that they face has to scheme to stop Kyle Pitts because as much as he's not involved, they all know 8 catches, 112 yards, and 2 touchdowns is coming if they don't cover him. They all know that. So we take him out of the mix. So that does put pressure on the rest of the offense with the Falcons because now that the Bucs don't have to account for that. Okay, I get it. But how in the world do you play a game without Pitts on the field? And your solution to that is to utilize Drake London less. Ray, he got 7 targets. Okay, he led the team in targets. He caught 4 passes, led the team. Drake London had his lowest snap share of the season. How is it that in the game where without Kyle Pitts, we have our star receiver on the field less than any other game this season? What is this coaching staff doing? And what is the coaching staff doing? There's so many coaching staffs out here that I don't understand. Your offense is not good. Your quarterback is not good. One of your 2 main weapons is off the field with an injury. So your other main weapon, you play him less than you have at any point through the first 5 games of the season. It makes absolutely no sense. And we're seeing it all across the NFL where dumb people like you and I, Kyle, can look at this and say, what the hell is going on?
I am done. I wouldn't, dispute that. The fact that my football intelligence is less than Arthur Smith. But you're right, Ray. It's like, let's do the obvious. Let's do the simple. Let's put our best players on the field. Let's do that. Can we just put them on the field? And, they're not ready or they're too young or they don't. You're the Falcons, man. Just get the guys on the field. Let's learn. Let's try to get some victories, try to get some points, learning experiences, all these things. Not even doing that for London. Man, it's becoming more and more difficult, Ray, to figure out like the 5 worst offenses in football. Like that's
12 teams in the race. Yeah, it's really bad.
Which leads us next to the quote unquote best offense in the NFL that got shut out yesterday. Detroit goes on the road to New England. All Patriots, 29 zilch, nothing for Detroit. I guess Belichick still has his fastball. Ray, my takeaway here, and I was very anti-Detroit for this game. I know a lot of people were looking at Detroit, a new coming-of-age storyline and golf and all this. I wasn't buying it. Now, I didn't think it'd be this bad. It was really awful for that Detroit Lions offense. But my takeaway, Ray, is I hope everybody got in on that Patriots team defense. I picked him up in one league last week, and I spent $2. I rarely do that, except for this simple fact. I think they're good. I think they're actually a good defense. The Patriots are going to be built around their defense. And, if they make the playoffs, I think that defense is going to be critical. But it's the schedule. Like, I really, think about that, Ray. Why would I go spend $2 on a defense that is facing the highest scoring offense in the NFL? Well, A, they're home. B, I'm still not sold on golf. C, the Lions aren't that good. They're beat up, man. You can't keep scoring 35 points whenever you're missing some of your key components. But beyond that, Ray, the Patriots and the upcoming schedule. This is a thing of beauty when you talk team defenses. You got the Lions yesterday. I think they got me 21 points in that league I picked them up in. Huge effort. Now we got Cleveland. Cleveland can move the football. They got Nick Chubb. Anytime you got Nick Chubb, he can move. But they also have Jacoby Brissett. If you watch him, the guy's a pick waiting to happen. They don't scare you throwing the ball. That's maybe the most difficult matchup in the next 5 weeks, Ray. Because after Cleveland, you've got the Bears, the Jets, the Colts, and the Jets again. I spent $2 on a streaming defense, and I get to roll with them for the next 5 weeks, Ray. So if they're out there in your league, folks, and I guess this week you'll have to go $2, maybe $3 to get them. But that upcoming schedule for the Patriots defense is really built. If you are a defensive streamer, that's the team you want for the next 5 weeks. So I should note week 10, there's a bye. And Ray, I'm going to have a big
decision
back and forth. Yeah, because week 11, they have the Jets. And one of Kyle's hard and fast rules is I never hold on to a team defense. I don't care how good they're playing or what the matchup is the next week. Ray, I'm going to sit here now. Remember, hold me to this. I'm 95% certain that even with that great game against the Jets in week 11, I'm going to dump the Patriots in their bye week. They'll be gone.
They then do go to Minnesota, which is not an easy, and then they face Buffalo those next two. So, and I know they've had success there, but so to your point, I have the Patriots. I didn't consider dropping them in the one league. I have them at all this week. So I will ride them through the bye, but I will be joining you with jettisoning them once that occurs.
Yeah, if you play streaming defenses, again, kind of use your head. Like you said, if you just said, they're up against the highest scoring offense in football, I don't want that matchup. No, you do. There are things beyond just the stats and the rankings that can make you feel good about a matchup. What's your takeaway from the blowout victory for the Patriots?
I, unlike you, was 100% right about how this game was going to go. I was also 100% wrong on Amon-Ra St. Brown. So let me back up a little story here. Again, Sunday mornings, I'm answering the questions on Twitter. I received, and I'm not exaggerating, at least 50 questions about Amon-Ra St. Brown when it was announced he was going to play. And it's like, look, if Amon-Ra St. Brown, who we all have to admit is a difference maker since the last 7 games or whatever of last season, top 5 tight end of wide receiver in football. If you have Amon-Ra St. Brown and he is playing, you're a moron if you don't start him. Moron if you don't start him. Well, Ray, you told everyone to start him and he sucked. I was wrong. Again, I'm saying I was wrong. But you're a moron if you didn't start him. What makes even less sense than the people asking should they start him or not is a Lions coaching staff determining that even though we're heading into our bye this week, we're going to play Amon-Ra St. Brown right now when we know we can't play him. He played 21 snaps. Yeah. He had the 5th most snaps of any wide receiver on the Lions. Why did they have him active?
Well, could you? And I agree with you, Ray. Your point. You have to play him. You have to start him. But Ray, that game was over in the second quarter, so maybe they realized let's scale back what we want to
But
do.
it was over before it began. They were never going to win the game.
I don't think they had it. No, don't say they were never going to win that game.
We talked about this last. They were not going to win the game. Goff on the team, on the injuries, on the road. No, they were not going to win the game.
Bailey Zappi, they could have won that game.
But so again, we got two things going on. I was wrong to tell everyone to play him because the results certainly didn't show up. But I can't fathom why a team acted. And you could say they were out of the game. Okay, then why activate them? You don't activate a player heading into a bye week unless you're confident the player's good to go, or that's a mistake on the coaching staff. Straight up, if he had gone out there and re-injured, or we hear today, his ankle's even, that's a huge miss for a team that wasn't going to win the football game in the first place. Activating a guy a week ahead of the bye week, which makes no sense. DeAndre Swift didn't play yesterday. Why?
Yeah.
They had a bye week coming up. So this one doesn't make sense from either side. People asking whether they should have played him, and the Lions actually playing him.
And you weren't wrong to make the advice, right? Your advice is correct. It just ended up badly. But I think this snap thing is because of how that scoreboard looked. Like if this game were 24-20 in the fourth quarter, he's out there, I would believe. You may be right. We can disagree on it. I kind of wrote it off and said that game got really ugly really fast, and they said, let's not push it. Not in this game. But hey, if we're in the second half and it's a 3-point game, he's out there. He's playing. Who knows? But we do know this. No points. After what, they have 35 last week?
45.
And
45.
Do we get 45? Yeah. Do we get to celebrate Hawkinson? Like, Ray, even though I knew it would be a total dead cat, he'd just be awful. I didn't think it'd be that awful. Ray, that is really difficult to do, to go from, what do you have, 39 points in week 4, and he had 1 point yesterday.
He had more catches last week than he had yards yesterday. And he had more touchdowns last week than he had catches yesterday. So, I mean, again, you had to start him in the seasonal league. Had to. If you started him in DFS, I don't know what you were doing.
Lions come up short on the road. Their NFC North brethren, the Chicago Bears, also came up short on the road, taking on Minnesota. Vikings win it 29-22 over the Bears. We did actually get to see 20 passes from Justin Fields. Hallelujah. What's your takeaway from the Bears-Vikings game, Ray?
He didn't look too bad yesterday, actually. Not too bad. My takeaway
was he better than Trevor Lawrence?
He looked better than Trevor Lawrence yesterday, yeah. I mean, Justin Fields made a lot of bad passes. Has he ever made a pick as bad as that late pick into the end zone by Trevor Lawrence? I don't know. My takeaway, and this is another thing that I got bombarded with questions. Someone even asked me if I was being honest when I answered this question yesterday morning. Do you start, Montgomery or Herbert? And I said, you start Montgomery 100% of the time. And someone responded to me, are you being serious? And it's like, and my response to them was, why would I lie? Like, what? Of course you start David Montgomery. And, number one, you started David Montgomery yesterday. You should have. Number two, 100%. And I even wrote that 100% he starts over Herbert. And this is just a reminder that sometimes we get way too carried away with these things. And I know
let me hit pause on this, Ray. I didn't own Montgomery in this league, but I did have Herbert in a league, and I started him.
Well, that's
I was a little thin, and I looked at this, Ray, and I know Montgomery's starting, but you know how we look at Amon-Ra St. Brown now, and we say, well, gosh, he wasn't helped. I kind of feared that with Montgomery. Okay. That was my fear, is that he'd go out there, he'd get 5 snaps. Ooh, this ain't feeling good. Let's take him to, I was not convinced, Ray, that he belonged out on that field. Now, again, I didn't own him, but I owned Herbert, and I still looked at Herbert and said, they've got to use him. Surely they're not going to go full workload for Montgomery. It turns out they mostly did. Now, it wasn't a great Montgomery game, but he got all the snaps. Herbert totally disappeared from the lineup.
Yeah, I think I had Herbert 29 or 30 at running back. So there were scenarios where he could have been a flex. Yeah. I'm not saying playing him was wrong. It's just you should have played Montgomery. If it was a decision you had to make, there was no decision. It was Montgomery. And, he played more than twice as many snaps. He played 36 to 14. He dominated the snap count, did Montgomery. He more than doubled the routes run, 18 to 7. And he trashed him in the touch total. Was it 16 to 4 or whatever it was? This is his backfield. And all the people that have been saying for the last couple of weeks, it's hurt. Like, we got it smack in our face. It's Montgomery's backfield. He got in the end zone, he got in the end zone as a ball carrier. He only had 20 yards, but he had 4 catches for 62 yards. So it was a decent day But just a reminder, it's his backfield.
Yeah, I think I got like 1.5 from Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Yeah. Our boss, Matt Deutsch, says he did start Khalil Herbert over David Montgomery. So there you go.
Yeah, it's always that easy, Bettor boss.
Even our boss thought you were being a clown saying go Montgomery.
Yeah, you should have read on Twitter. I said 100%. It was an easy call for me, but maybe that's
my takeaway. And hey, we've been hammering offenses. Let me give some love to an offense. The Vikings. Yeah, the Vikings. Everybody's punching bag. Kirk Cousins. Did you see he started 17 of 17? Did you see how the Vikings just murdered the Bears like underneath all game long? 12 of 15 on third downs, 29 first downs. What was it? A one punt in this game. Like I was saying, man, there's so many bad offenses. Like, what's going on with the Steelers? What's going on with the Rams? Oh, the Falcons are a disaster. The Bengals aren't sharp. The Vikings, Ray, were sharp, and it is still an offense. And I know it's not going to be perfect every week. And I know there were concerns, Dalvin Cook concerns, Kirk Cousins concerns. But, Ray, that Jefferson, Cousins, Cook thing, it's still proficient. It's still legit. It's not nobody's every week. They're going to have Viking efforts where they don't do well. But when they're on, Ray, they're fine. That's a team that should be totally fine moving the ball all season. And of all the QB2s who have kind of struggled, like we haven't gotten great things, or we haven't gotten anything from Matt Ryan. We haven't gotten great things from, say, a Rodgers who has kind of struggled. Tua's now hurt. You know, we had all these QB2s. Kirk Cousins, totally fine. So, Ray, if you got Kirk Cousins as your first QB or your QB2, no issues whatsoever with that call. It's doing typical Kirk Cousins stuff.
Yeah, 296 and 1 yesterday. Well, Kyle, rushing touchdown. Make sure you
rushing touchdown, baby.
We got his 2 scores.
I baked that into my projections last week. A Kirk Cousins rushing touchdown.
Those are better than my projections. I think that the weird thing is because you're right, they were on fire in the first half through the air. Isn't this the second time this season that Justin Jefferson's like hit halftime with 10 catches and then caught like 2 or 3 passes in the second half? It's so weird. You know, and they're still really trying to establish Thielen. They haven't done that. So it's not all roses, but they won the game. The offense worked. To your point with Cousins, he has absolutely been that quarterback too, and he's been consistent with it. You're getting Cook, you're getting Jefferson. By the way, Madison, just to point it out, Madison played a lot yesterday. He touched the ball a lot yesterday. You saw the ball down in the green zone yesterday. They're starting to inch a lot closer together. You can't tell by the touches, right? But they're starting to inch closer than I expected. I don't know if that's just the shoulder issue with Cook or something else going on.
Well, so here's the call, Ray. I'm glad you brought that up. Nobody who has Dalvin Cooks, if right now you can go to your waiver wire and Alexander Madison's there, you better for damn sure pick him up, right? You have to. Get them for $3, $4, $5 this week. You know, 3% of your remaining fab. Madison, Ray, especially if he's available, the Cook owner's got to have that guy, right?
Yep,
he's got to have that guy.
100%. And if you look at the action yesterday, Madison saw more targets than Cook did. He ran 2 more routes than Cook did, and he only played 11 fewer snaps. So that, you know, we almost had a 50-50 thing going in the backfield with these 2 guys, in addition to the workload as a pass catcher. Matt, again, this is another one. Like you said, let's call it now, because we're dealing with the Kenneth Walker situation now, because I guess people didn't have him on a roster. If Madison is on the waiver right now, get him, because his role is increasing a little bit. I'm not calling for him to see his role continue to increase substantially, but his role is growing to the point where he is a flex option in bye weeks. And with the health concerns with Dalvin Cook, yes, add Madison if he's available.
Well, I'm slightly embarrassed to say this because we've been with you for like an hour and 40 minutes, but we still have 2 more games to get to. I always wonder, like, how am I going to get 90 minutes and no problem whatsoever? 2 more games to get to. Up next, who called it? Jets, Ray. Big win for those New York Jets. It helped that Miami was on their 3rd quarterback. Final score, 40-17. My takeaway, Ray, is the Chase Edmonds crash and burn was epic.
Huge.
Yesterday was an epic crash and burn. This guy goes from scoring all these cheap touchdowns, not deserving them, not deserving the fantasy points. 1 friggin' touch yesterday. 1. And we saw Raheem Mostert, Ray, as long as he's healthy, He's got to be the guy. He just looks the part. Chase Edmonds looks the part of a third down back. Looks the part of a random play here, a random play there. I know there are a lot of Chase Edmonds owners, Ray, who have him as an RB2. They got to be rethinking that today. I mean, one touch, that is a true fall from grace. This guy, what do you have coming in? 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns on the year, 1 touch yesterday. He's a very difficult start for next week.
Yeah. Mostert was always going to be the early down ball carrier for this team. Eventually, it was going to happen. Whether it was week 1, it was going to happen. The question is, how long can Mostert stay healthy? Because, we talk about guys with their injury track records. He's injured his knee 412 times. Like, he's not staying healthy all season long. But he's the guy, and it's not even a question. He is the guy in the backfield. Now we got to wonder, like you said, about is Edmonds the 2? Because yesterday, Myles Gaskin played more snaps. Yeah. Myles Gaskin ran more routes. Myles Gaskin saw more targets. Myles Gaskin had more carries. So Edmonds wasn't just the 2 that didn't get utilized. He was the 3 yesterday. So, yeah, the Edmonds folks, and there was a lot of people, especially in a PPR setup, really pushing for him. I don't have a single share of Edmonds anywhere. I never bought into that. The people that did, hopefully they built some depth at that position, because until Mostert gets hurt, I don't think it changes.
Now, pay attention, dear listener or dear viewer, because Ray's about to trash a quarterback who just led his offense to 40 points yesterday. Ray, no respect for Zach Wilson, eh?
And a quarterback that's led his team to 2 victories, too.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that.
This is the Jets we're talking about, Ray. What do you need from a guy?
Jets. And this is, we talked so much about what was Joe Flacco doing and how things were going to change. And it seemed the sense I got from the listeners, the followers, the viewers, was that everyone thought that Zach Wilson would take over for Joe Flacco, and it was the same thing. And you and I had this discussion multiple times here on the show, and I said, the offense changes completely when Zach Wilson's under center. I don't understand all the love for this team in the air. I don't get it. Ty Conklin shares, I'd be very nervous. Garrett Wilson shares, I don't get it. And through 2 games, the returns are this. Zach Wilson has torpedoed the passing attack.
Explain torpedo, because Ray, I didn't think it would be a big fall from grace. I didn't think it'd be 54 passes a week.
Right.
But I thought Zach Wilson would be fine throwing 35, 40 times a week. And guys like Moore, guys like Wilson, guys like Conklin, we saw Hall. I thought there'd still be a good offense here. You're telling me it's not there, right?
No, it's not here. And it wasn't. I said it wasn't here a month ago. It's not here. Zach Wilson is not a fully developed product. He's just not. And he played a good series at the end of the game last week to lead him to the victory. They won the game yesterday. Okay. They did beat a 3rd-string rookie quarterback. That's part of it. But the takeaway in the fantasy game is that we have concerns. The rushing is great. Like Breece Hall is it, right? We know he's it. He got screwed yesterday. He lost 2 touchdowns after he had long plays. They pulled him off the field. Somehow Michael Carter got 2 touchdowns. Random.
Yeah, Michael Carter got his just desserts, Ray. That's not Breece Hall getting screwed. That's Michael Carter actually getting what he earned.
Oh, okay. So that's kind of that's the Chase Edmonds of the Jets, if you're worried about that. But you look at the passing attack, and Ty Conklin got 1 target. Ty Conklin was leading tight ends in routes run, I think, through 4 games with Joe Flacco. He had 1 target yesterday. Garrett Wilson, who everyone went and spent 50% of the budget on, 4 targets. He's done. He's got 60 yards in 2 games with it. So be cautious. It's always a full thing. It's the coach. It's the scheme. It's the matchup. It's the game flow. All these things are into the hopper here. But spending big money to add rookie receivers or young players with a young and unproven quarterback is always a dicey scenario.
Now, I will say, Ray, for the Conklin owner, I'm not making a switch this week at tight end. Like, what are we looking at tight end? Taysom Hill and then a bunch of nobodies. But to me, Ray, it's not like, I got to get Taysom Hill, Ty Conklin. This is a failure. I got to move on to the next tight end. I think this is one of those examples of what we're talking about is you can't jump from tight end to tight end every week. Like Ty Conklin did really well in the first 4 weeks of the season. I'm not going to bail on him because of the disaster that he was yesterday. If you do it, I think you're making a mistake. To me, Conklin, Ray, has earned, a terrible week 5, but he's still out there for me in week 6 and 7. Now, if we get to week 7 and it's 3 bad weeks, I'm moving on to another tight end. But I like to give all my tight ends a few weeks before I just write them off and say it's finished.
Tyler Conklin didn't earn anything. Tyler Conklin played football with Joe Flacco. Tyler Conklin was averaging 8 targets a week in 3 games with Joe Flacco. He's seen 6 in 2 games with Zach Wilson.
So you're out. You're done with
I'm
Conklin.
out. He ran 7 routes yesterday, Ty Conklin did. 7.
Oh, calm down, Ray. It's one game.
It's one
Okay.
game. But I'm just saying, he ran 7 routes. How many passes did he throw? 21? Yeah, 21 passes. He ran around on a third of the pass. They didn't even use him they wasn't even an option. So no, Ty Conklin, I mean, it all depends on your options, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But
there aren't many of them out there.
Yeah, right. I wasn't in on Conklin when it was happening, and I'm not at all surprised that it's gone down since Joe Flacco's been down.
Well, I guess since you're selling all shares you might have had with Conklin, as we get to our final game, it's the Chargers and the Browns. Ray is all out on Ty Conklin, but Ray, are you all in on David Njoku?
I'm calling it weeks after other people called it.
It's for real, huh?
And you know the thing with Njoku, had 6 for 88 yesterday. It's the only real concern I have right now is twofold: injury, which you have with everyone, but secondarily, how does this offense change when Watson is back? Because Watson doesn't throw underneath. Now, to Njoku's credit, he is an athletic field stretching tight end, so he's not running a bunch of 5-yard curl routes. Okay, but that's like really my only legitimate concern with Njoku, because Njoku plays 90% of the snaps. He never comes off the field. He's always running routes on the passing attack. That's 3 games in a row where he's gone 5 catches for 70 yards. You know who hasn't done that this season? Travis Kelce. You know who hasn't done that this season? Mark Andrews. David Njoku is one of the most David Njoku the last 3 games has been one of the most consistent tight ends in football. So again, my concern is not right now. Right now, he is a legitimate number 2 receiving option in this offense behind Cooper. He is established as that. My concern is what happens when we get into the fantasy playoffs and Deshaun Watson's his quarterback.
Everybody wondered why in the hell did they sign him. I guess we're finding out. They're using him now. They just needed the right QB, Jacoby Brissett, to make use of Njoku. As for me, and again, Chargers win at 30-28. There's a lot to unpack with this game. It was kind of a weird game on both sides. Like, the Chargers were getting blasted off the field early. Then they stormed back. They had like one of the truly most idiotic decisions I think a coach has ever made. Somehow lived to tell the story. But my takeaway, Ray, is actually Mike Williams. Mike Williams is now over 100 yards in 3 of 5 games this year. For the first time in his career, back-to-back 100-yard receiving efforts. I wonder, especially with Keenan Allen hurt, I think we're seeing a true changing of the guard here, Ray. And I think Williams has this opportunity here to become the dude in this Chargers offense. At the very least, we may finally be out of the realm of the inconsistent Mike Williams. This is kind of that Mike Williams who doesn't just rely on touchdowns, doesn't just rely on the big play. Mike Williams is kind of figuring it out, Ray, and he's being used in different spots. He's running different routes. It's not everything down the sideline at 35 yards, and we just hope he can out muscle and out jump and out physical the opposition. This is like a route runner now. This is a guy making plays. Now, Keenan Allen will be back at some point, and Keenan Allen will still get his. But, Ray, I really feel like this may be one of those rare offenses we get where you feel like every week I got 2 receiving options who are going to put up points. I think that's what we've got with Williams. I think it's starting to come home and take to, grow. It's starting to take off here for Williams. Finally, it's been a long time, long wait. Kudos to the Chargers for waiting around. I thought the contract they gave him this offseason was a little overzealous, but Ray, you can't argue with this start. I mean, this is a better start than a guy like Jamar Chase. We started talking about Chase earlier today, and Chase is fine, but Mike Williams has been really good to start the season.
He has, and a lot of times I sit here on the show and I say, look, most of these players are basically the same, right? Physically, they basically do the same thing. Mike Williams is one of the rare players that is on that next level. Physically speaking, he is elite on pretty much everything. And we have seen it time after time again where he high points footballs. He one-hands it. He twists his body this way. His legs go that way. His arms over here. The defense. I mean, he makes remarkable catches on the football field. He always has. But he lacked consistency. Now, it's very easy to be consistent when you don't have a guy who's getting 9 targets every week, Keenan Allen not there, because your team is forced to throw you the football. Defenses can look your way, but they're forced to throw you the football because the rest of the receiving core, Josh Palmer, what the hell happened to him? So, I'm really interested to see what will happen. Mike Williams will still be a wide receiver too when Keenan Allen's back. I'm not pushing off that at all. I don't know. I don't think I can go to your.
I might push back, Ray.
See, I don't know if I can go there with you, but
yeah, with Keenan Allen, I think we're at a point where it's just like you can't really trust his health as much, which is silly because that's been a knock on Mike Williams. But I kind of feel like Keenan Allen maybe. I mean, what do we miss now? 3 straight games with Allen and the hamstring.
4.
When's he going to be back? What's he going to be when he comes back? I don't know if an Allen owner needs to worry. Like once he's back, you're starting him. But Ray, I think what we're seeing is Mike Williams kind of earning that trust from Herbert and maybe just kind of pushing Allen behind him. I know you still got him ahead, but I'm trending in the direction of Williams becoming the top dog in this offense when they pass.
Yeah, and I think the good news is whether you're right or I'm right, or you're wrong or I'm wrong, we're still getting 5 catches for 70 yards a week, right? Like it's still a usable. It's just the degree there. Because again, you might have him at wide receiver 11, I might have him at 19. We're still playing him every week. So yeah, they really need to establish something else because as we've seen him rise, we've seen Gerald Everett kind of pull back. I mentioned Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer's playing. He's running around doing nothing. He's not doing anything. He's not helped at all. They really need to get Keenan Allen back to help stabilize that offense and create that, down to down consistency, the first down consistency that they really need to continue to be successful.
So there you are, 14 games on Sunday. And it's almost 2:00 already. Didn't we start lunch money at noon? There are still other things to discuss, to debate. Believe it or not, there were guys who were heroes yesterday we probably didn't bring up. There were guys who were failures yesterday we probably didn't bring up. Well, we got all this week. We got the rest of the show to bring them up. There you go. Every Monday, we knock them all out, folks. We do not lie. It's something we love doing here on Lunch Money. Spending a lot of time and not taking breaks. None of that break stuff here on Lunch Money, at least until now. Ray's got to get some tea. I probably need some liquor after that, something stronger. Anyway, timeout for us. When we return, we touched on some injuries, told you, of course, about Rashad Penny, done for the season. Looks like we got an update on where we stand with Baker Mayfield. Got a situation to follow with Tyreek Hill. What's going on with Damian Harris? Injury report, the post-mortem, if you will, coming out of week 5. It is coming your way next on Lunch Money. Before any of that, let's go to the den. Let's say hello to Duke for the first time this week and get some updates on the NFL, college football, how the weekend went. Ray and I back in just a minute. Right now, here's Duke in the den.
Good afternoon, bettors. It's your boy Duke back and better than ever. Welcome in, as always, to the Duke's Den. I'm presented to you by FantasyGuru.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to Lunch Money. As always, I'm trying to make you money one bet at a time. And this weekend, 2-0. 2-0 in college football. Whoa, we're 2-0. It feels so good to make money on the show. I saw the lyrics. I got it. It's the best I'm going to do. 2-0, baby. Ohio State does cover the 27. Barely. Almost got backdoor, but barely covered the 27. Tennessee. We get him at -2.5. I think it kicked off closer to -3.5 come game time. Blow out the LSU Tigers. Brian Kelly truly does have a rebuild on his hands down there in Baton Rouge. Tennessee, sneaky 5-0. But profit everywhere in the bet pack for the college football slate. How about the NFL slate as well? Some interesting games. I had 3 takeaways that I wanted to talk about briefly from NFL Sunday. Number 1, I was footballed out, fell asleep at halftime of the Bengals game. Awesome game there. But number 1, let's slow down on the Jaguars hype train. Just a touch, okay? Can we? Doug Peterson's doing a great job getting that roster turned around. Of course, they had a plethora of draft picks from the previous staff. Getting good production out of some guys, but they are still without major weapons. Another 2 interceptions for Trevor Lawrence. Fantastic for Survivor, by the way, in the circuit contest. We'll talk about that in hour 2, I believe. Jaguars, big popular team, eliminated. But 2 more interceptions for Trevor Lawrence. They're decent. They're going to be fine. Maybe even 500, maybe slightly better. They could even win the division. Let's not crown their asses just yet. How about number 2? I have a rule for betting. If you're betting college football and the side you like makes you puke in your mouth a little bit, just move on. Don't take the other side. Just move on from the game. There's 1,000 games you can choose from. In the NFL, if the bet makes it puke in your mouth, probably the right side. There's some sneaky little lines here, little rat lines we can look at and go, I probably should avoid that. Keep in mind, how about the Chiefs losing to the Colts? Colts were 6.5-point underdogs. They moved to 5.5 underdogs. You're like, what's going on? Why is that line moving there? If it makes you puke in your mouth, maybe take a look at it. That did not work out for me with the Steelers this week. Thankfully, I didn't bet it. It was just a dart. Didn't bet it huge. But number 3, shout out to Brian Robinson. Poor kid, about to realize his lifelong dream of playing in the NFL, gets drafted in the 3rd round, gets shot twice just a few short months ago. Thank God he not only survived, but he's now thriving. Back in for the Commanders, 9 carries for 22 yards. Not the greatest output in the world, but it's just good to see him happy and healthy. And of course, Carson Wentz is right there fumbling the ball 3 times to take all the attention away from the 2.2 or whatever yards it was that Brian Robinson managed there per carry. So good for him. Good to see him back out there. Like I said, Monday Night Football tonight, hour 2. I'm giving you my side and total.
Brady retreats. Looky. Here comes Grady Jarrett. You shall not pass. Surely they didn't call slinging him down. This will be a horrendous call. They're going to call Grady Jarrett for slinging down Brady on this sack. This is not the intention of the call. You will not see a worse play than this call.
Well, it was fairly rough, fairly incorrect. Now, did it change the outcome of the game? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, Ray, I guess if you think Marcus Mariota was suddenly going to lead his team down the field 80 yards, maybe it does. Bad call. Now, I'm not one, Ray, as you know, of the years to really get fired up about bad calls. But yes, even I will admit, a bad call kept the drive going for the Bucs. What do they call it? Roughing the passer was the official call.
That's what they call it. Yeah.
As the announcer there from the Falcons radio network indicated, slinging Brady. This seemed to be a pretty legitimate football play, right? I don't think anybody looks at that call and says, oh my gosh, that's a penalty. Where was the yellow flag? I guess Brady just gets those calls after 25 years of being in.
I 100% believe the NFL is not rigged. I 100% believe people watching that play can think the NFL is rigged. Because, I mean, that was not a penalty. Straight up. And I've seen it pointed out, too. If you watch the video, right, go back and watch if you haven't seen it yet. When Brady gets tackled, it sure looks like he's trying to kick Jared in the groin as he's falling to the ground. Go take a look at it. I'm not saying he was trying to kick him, but okay. But regardless, that was a football play. I mean, Night Train Lane is rolling over in his grave. Like, my God. Yeah. Like, that's it. What is a defensive player supposed to do? That's the thing that I get, like, to the other side of things here. I know you want to protect the GOAT. No, yeah, I get it. All right. What is a defensive player supposed to do? If you play the game at less than 100%, you're not in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to play it at 100%. So these guys are supposed to make decisions in less than that when they're running full speed at a guy with the game on the line. Decisions less than that to intentionally ease up the last quarter of a second of their tackle. It's the dumbest thing going. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. And again, I can understand why people think the NFL is rigged when they watch something like that, because it's absolutely horrendous. It might be the worst roughing the passer penalty, which is saying something in the history of the NFL.
Well, and Ray, this is the push and pull of something that all of us spent 2 days talking about with Tua. You know, nobody wants to see anybody get hurt, and you have to protect these guys. But there's this fear that you protect them too much or you don't protect them enough. And then, you know, like yesterday, Bridgewater gets knocked out. And the way I understand that, the only reason he didn't come back in is because of the new protocol they have.
That's how it's basically being reported. Yep.
Yeah. And so that's frustrating. If you're a Dolphins fan, right, you really lost that game because of what happened to your quarterback 2 weeks ago. It changed the NFL rules. And I just fear, Ray, if, that protocol was agreed to, I think, on Saturday, and immediately it kind of pops up and they follow the letter of the law and it yanks a guy out. And then you see what happens to Brady and maybe the official throws the flag. I look at that. And after that play, Brady was like adamant. He was up in the official's face. And I think there was probably an intimidation factor when the most famous player in like football history is yelling at you that you missed a call. There is a little intimidation there. I will also add this was a Jerome Boger-led officiating crew. That dude is the Angel Hernandez of the NFL. He is a really bad referee. I mean, really bad. And, you know, he had to talk after the game, and his explanation sucked. He pretty well said we were trying to protect him, overprotection, without saying it. And I get it, Ray. It's a bad call, but I hate when people say, like you said, it's rigged or whatever. That led the Buccaneers to a win. I find, Ray, that even if that sack had been upheld, the Falcons have less than a 10% chance of winning that game. Probably less than 8%. Like they weren't going to move the football. That wasn't going to happen. So it's a joke call, but I don't think it changed the outcome of the game at all.
No, but it's, from a broader perspective, and you see this every week. We see it, and it's a funny thing. We see it in baseball all the time when we get we got to get robot umps. Hear it all the time. It's everywhere. We got to get robot umps. The umpires, and there's 458,000 accounts on Twitter where they just track blown calls by umpires in baseball. The umpires and the referees in the NFL suck. And I don't know if the game is too fast, it's too big. I don't know what it is, but I saw 4 touchdowns yesterday that were called touchdowns that on review were overturned, where it's like the guy had one foot down.
But Ray, it went both ways. There were calls that were touchdowns, and I looked at it and said, really? There were calls that they removed off the board. You said, really? It's tough, I think. And I don't know if that's an excuse, but man, it's like, I don't feel like there are a lot of weeks, and yesterday might have been one of them where I say, do I know the rule book? Like, do I know what I'm watching when I sit here every week for 10 hours watching the football? And every week, Ray, I see something that you look at and say, that can't be right, can it? Like, I don't see that in baseball. I watch a lot of baseball, Ray, and sure, there are strikes and balls. But, like, when the rules are out there, okay, I know what happens. It's a little more black and white. With the NFL, every week, Ray, in, like, every game, there's something that makes you wonder if they changed the rules here in the last week or two.
It does. And, they get Dan Blandino on there explaining things, and it's like, okay, wink, wink, okay. But, I mean, look, to pull it broad spectrum here, the players are too big and too fast. Period. Okay. On these replays, it's, some of these replays, like we saw yesterday, I forget what it was. It took like 4 minutes. It's like, what are you looking at? Like, did he do it or not? When you have to watch something 19 times on replay to determine whether it was 1 inch this way or 1 inch that way, stop using replay. I've said this for years. Replay is not helping pro football. It's making it worse. It causes anguish. It causes angst. It slows down gameplay. It makes the fans hate the refs. It makes the refs hate the players. We sometimes change calls. We don't even know. Like that Travis Etienne thing. What's a football move? Travis Etienne fumbled that ball yesterday, but no, he didn't make a football move. He took 2 steps, but he didn't make a football move. So the ball, oh no, it's not a fumble. It happens every week. It's like you're saying, what's the catch rule in the NFL? We went to this a couple years ago, right? What even is the rule? So yeah, I wish they'd get rid of instant replay. I think it's damaging to the sport. I just don't like it.
Well, they will never get rid of instant replay on the broadcast. We demand it, and that's why. Remember, replay kind of rose out of the fact that people would sit at home and say, "Why can't they look at this? Why can't they? I get to see the replay, and I know it's wrong. Why don't they get it?" So that said, okay, we'll have replay. Ray, we're never going to get rid of replay. No, like you couldn't say, "Hey, the NFL will get rid of it, but we're not going to show it on broadcast." Right. What if the NFL said, "We'll get rid of replay, but we will not show any instant replays at the stadium"? Like, would you be okay with, like, you'd still get them at home and you could still yell at the TV, but the ref can't hear you there.
Right.
Like, I feel part of it is they have to have replay because the millions upon millions of people watching the game have replay. So, like, you can't not have replay when everybody else has it, but the guys making the decisions don't have it. Like, you got to have replay. It's impossible.
I know. It is impossible. It's just my dream. It doesn't help.
You need to get better dreams, Ray. That's not really like a cool
it doesn't
dream.
help. And again, to put a chip in the football so at least we know where it is, right? At least can we at least do that? But yeah, and maybe, and again, I'm basically in the zone. Maybe the referees shouldn't be 62-year-old dudes. I don't know. I mean, some of them are pretty ripped. I'm not saying that, but a lot of these guys are 60 years old. It's like, I don't know. Maybe
I've heard that for years, Ray. When you think about the ladder of being a referee, even like I'm guessing refs start in the 20s, early 20s. They do intramurals and they go to Pee Wee, then high school, and they climb this. Like, it's really tough to get the NFL before like 50 as a head ref.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of the nature of the beast. Like, what'd you think of the Olave touchdown?
Was that that wasn't a touchdown?
That's. And I hate saying that, like, a guy got concussed, he dropped the ball. But the way I read the rule, he didn't complete the catch.
No. He didn't make a football move.
Yeah. So I look at that, I'm like,
well, and
I mean, I get it. I know he dropped the ball because he,
Yeah.
lost brain consciousness, but that's not a touchdown.
No.
What I saw in that play.
And when they were replaying it, I'm like, oh, they got to. And then like, it's a touchdown. I'm like, what? That was not a touchdown. And it has nothing to do with Olave or his health. Yeah. That was not a touchdown. Absolutely not. But yet it was. And again, so that's the thing. If we use replay and it creates as many questions as answers that it solves, what's the point of it?
Yeah. Well, it's not going to change, Ray Flowers. You're going to be an old man still yelling at the replay clouds. No doubt about that. Olave with the concussion. We'll just have to wait and see, as he was knocked out for the Saints. We've got an update on Baker Mayfield, Ray, and I was going to say it's bad news, but really it isn't. Baker Mayfield won't be the quarterback for the Panthers.
Yeah.
At least now we can move on to P.J. Walker, I guess, for a week or two.
P.J. Walker's basically been announced as the starter. I don't know if it was official. Ian Rappaport reported it, so again, we're doing the show here. I don't know if it manager, someone from the team said it or not, but it's going to be P.J. Walker, which means Sam Darnold's ankle's still not quite there. But clearly this is a scenario where, hey, Mr. Ghost, once Sam Darnold's ankle's okay, he's going to start for this team. And that's good news, at least for DJ Moore. At least one piece on that offense should benefit from that.
It's a high ankle sprain for Mayfield. If you missed it earlier, Matt Rule was fired this morning. Needless to say, there's going to be a lot of turnover in Carolina in the next 8 months or so. There's going to be a new coaching staff. There's going to probably be a new quarterback, all sorts of new things shaking with that Panthers team. Mayfield was in a walking boot yesterday. Ray, so was Tyreek Hill. And this is probably worth monitoring because he did leave. And again, now they were getting blown out. They were losing by 3 touchdowns. He did leave the field of play, and everybody saw him in the walking boot afterwards. Tyreek Hill's been known to be limping around and kind of stumbling and always playing on Sundays. So I give him the benefit of the doubt here, but that's a big one to follow as the Vikings get set to go to Miami and play the Dolphins this week.
And it's huge, too, to see. I guess the assumption at this point, and we'll see if it plays out, is that Bridgewater will be able to play this week because technically he wasn't concussed. We're still uncertain if Tua is going to be eligible or not. So the offense obviously has a much better chance than using a youngster that's not able at this point in his career to lead an NFL offense. But it is something to watch with Tyreek Hill. He has been beat up a lot. To your point, he's played a lot. There's been games where he's played a limited snap count because of some injury he's dealing with. And this is the second injury he's dealing with this year. Is it? If I'm remembering, so things are starting to happen. We'll see, but I agree with you. At this point in time, I'm not overly concerned about him being active. The determination then is what can we expect from him in week action in 6.
Well, and remember, we haven't even gotten to the cramping portion of Tyreek Hill's season. That's still
coming.
The every week cramp that we get with Tyreek. Although maybe that did happen now that I think about it. I think he had one issue with cramping in one of the games. Other injuries, we told you about Rashad Penny, done for the season. Fibula injury to his lower leg, if you will. So that's going to mean a lot of love for Kenneth Walker on the waiver wire, and it makes total sense. If you are desperate for running backs, that would be a guy to spend some money on. James Conner dealing with rib bruising or some sort of rib issue. We don't think it's of the cartilage variety, but we'll have to wait and see with James Conner. The other big running back injury, Ray, was Damian Harris going down with a hamstring issue. And we've already seen it, like Keenan Allen, who we were talking about in the previous segment. The hamstring stuff is really tough to figure. I would say this. I don't really have an expectation of Harris this week, and it's going to be full systems go on Ramondre Stevenson probably.
Yeah, we'll see. Hamstrings has been something that, pops up with running backs all the time. Damian Harris is Mr. Touchdown, but if he's not in the lineup, Ramondre Stevenson probably becomes Mr. Touchdown. We saw a massive workload from the youngster yesterday. I know a lot of people drafted Stevenson with the expectation that he would be 1B to the 1A. Well, now he's probably going to get a chance to be the 1-1, not even a 1A, just the 1 in that offense right now.
T. Higgins, ankle injury, his status going to be worth monitoring all week long. Dalton Schultz, knee issue there. You saw Pat Freiermuth go out with a concussion. Christian Watson of the Packers hamstring. Nelson Aguilar hamstring. Mentioned Mayfield with the foot. Bridgewater with the concussion. So a lot of guys left early yesterday. I would say the biggies, Ray, obviously Penny. And then the status this week is on guys like Olave, like Tyreek Hill, like James Conner. Certainly probably have to throw in I'd say T. Higgins into that. I mean, people forget how good T. Higgins was playing because of all the attention on Chase. But it's the same old, man. The injuries are hot and heavy, and every week it's just a battle to the finish line to see if you can keep guys healthy.
Yeah, and it really can get depressing. Someone was sending me, what was their team this morning? I'll think of it in a second, but it's like my first 3 picks are all hurt, and it's like, oh, I mean, what, you know, you make bad decisions, started to sit, maybe you made one bad draft pick. Okay, these things happen, but when your 3 or 4 stars are out, it's not lucky, it's not fortunate. I say it all the time. It's so difficult to consistently win in fantasy football because you always have to be thinking ahead. But man, if your team can just stay healthy, even if you don't draft a great team, if it just stays healthy, you got a chance to at least.
Well, and I know all the, we talk on and on about running backs being injured, and they are always injured. That's it. But Ray, I feel like the other positions are catching up to them.
Starting to look that way. Yeah.
I mean, the receivers are all beat up. Quarterbacks are missing more games than usual, I feel like, this year. So, is it worse than ever? I'll leave that to Ray Flowers. He likes to say it's worse than ever, but I think it's kind of par for the course. Just a lot of injuries to deal with, and obviously each and every day throughout the week, right here on Lunch Money, here on the Bettor Sports Network, we'll keep you up to date on all the injury reports, practice reports, all that stuff, so that you got the information you need going into Week 6 and beyond. Now, we've still got a Monday night game to take a look at. We've got our bet du jour. We've got our lunch hunch. What else do we? We got more of Duke's Den. We've got the good and the bad from Week 5. So much to get to. Also, Major League Baseball had their first playoff weekend. Fairly exciting. Not great, but it was kind of fun to get some baseball postseason action up and going. So a lot more still to come. We are in hour 3 of our 3-hour fun run here on the Lunch Money. We will take a timeout here, come back. We got to talk Chiefs and Raiders. Maybe we'll get some more injury news. It's all coming your way as we roll on the Bettor Sports Network.
Talk about your picks, your fantasy teams, and your sports collectibles on Bettor Sports Network.
By the way, if you are a commissioner out there, if someone does not pay, that's on you at the end of the day. It sucks. That's why you have to get the money early, because if they don't pay, it's on you. You don't change the prize. A winner shouldn't be impacted because unfortunately you messed up as commissioner. And I've been caught with this before. I've made this mistake. It sucks, and I had to go out of pocket for it. You learn that maybe some of your friends should not be in that league. But Roan, we see it all the time with commissioner issues, and I can't stress it enough that when it comes down to league payment, it's on the commissioner if they don't have everybody's entry fee and someone decides to ghost them.
Yeah, I had to collect 36 entry fees this year. All of them were collected except one. And it was one of my friends who said he was going to pay the second. I forgot to remind him. He might even be listening, but I know he's going to pay. If not, I know where he lives. But nah, he'll pay.
Big brother Adam Rodas over here.
And even the guy that I've talked about before that usually always pays me at the end, he actually paid on time this time. He usually is like, I'll pay you on Friday, and then it doesn't come, and then it's 4 months later. And he always winds up paying. That's why I don't really get upset. But you've seen my emails. I don't play around. Like, This is the date. This is the date. You get it in by then. And I always, too, I'm like, the draft order will be determined when everyone pays. Right. So don't hit me up about the draft order. Once everyone pays, then the draft order will be done. And anyone who's been in this league, now Festy can't attest to this because he's never won money in my league, but the people who do win, they get it right away. Usually the next day or two. Just make sure the scoring, especially with football, no scoring changes, as long as it's not like a point victory, half a point, and then they'll get the money right away.
What about 2 points?
Yeah, wait it out just in case something crazy happens. I guess I don't wait till Thursday when the official scoring happens.
Yeah, man. A championship that I was in years ago got reversed, and I ended up winning on a Thursday stat correction.
Yeah, that kind of sucks. You hope it doesn't come down to that. If you're on the better end of that, it's great. But man, imagine thinking you won, you got the money, and then it changes. That's tough.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
Swing and a high fly ball. Left field. Way back. Ball game. Gonzalez walks it off. the Guardians are moving on to the division series.
Swinging a line drive in the right field. Down the line and toward the corner, a base hit. Cal being waved around third. He'll score. Frazier in at second with a 2-out RBI double. Claps his hands, and the Mariners, for the first time in the ball game, have a 10-9 miraculous lead here in the top of the ninth inning. Holy smokes! Adam Frazier comes through in the clutch.
And he hits that fair down the third baseline. Hassan Kim is in. Grisham follows. And Juan Soto adds 2 more. And the Padres are up 6-0 with 2 outs in the 8th.
Hey, I see you in LA. San Diego fans, 2 hours away. Just go there, cheer for you, real team, the Padres. Let's go.
Some of the sounds and moments from the first ever Wild Card weekend. Gosh, last time Ray and I were here on Friday, everybody was still alive. Everybody had a chance in October. Things have changed just 3 days later. We welcome you back to Lunch Money. You heard the sounds there from ESPN Radio. You had the big home run by Oscar Gonzalez on Saturday. That sent the Guardians into the next round of the playoffs. You had the giant hit and giant comeback by the Mariners, Adam Frazier securing that big double to make it a 10-9 victory for Seattle. They eliminated Toronto. And then there at the end, sorry, Mets fans, it's just more of being the Mets, I guess. Juan Soto, not only with the big hit last night, but also with the celebration as the Padres get set for the Dodgers. Ray, what'd you think of the first Wild Card weekend of your life?
Yeah, I will be honest, I didn't watch 1 second of it, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah,
You're
got
kidding,
football,
right?
man.
Ollie's birthday party ate up your entire weekend?
Ollie's birthday party and football. Yeah. By the way, can you see Ollie on my shoulder here? You didn't even notice that I'm wearing a shirt that actually has the dog on it.
Is that really Ollie or is it just a dog?
That's really him. Right there.
Ray, you've probably... Oh, okay. I see it there on the breastplate
right
there. Okay, I was looking at the dog that's on your shoulder.
That's him. He's holding his toy.
That's him too?
That's him too. Yeah,
Wait,
he's in
so
my
the whole
armpit.
shirt has Ollie all... Oh, come on.
He's
Ray.
everywhere.
Wait a second. So whose birthday was it?
There it is.
Yeah, I get it now, Ray. Okay, so now you've got a shirt with Ollie all over it.
It's a Hawaiian shirt with Ollie on it. Yes.
Who
That's how we
got you
celebrate here, Kyle. So we do it.
Did you wear that for the birthday party?
I absolutely did.
Yeah. Okay, Ray. Well, I've never stooped to your level. You know, I'm going to show up here with my wife all over my shirt. Wouldn't that look weird?
That would look very weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But I love her just like you love Ollie. Why can't I do that? I guess not.
I can give you the name of the company that did this if you want to.
No. I'll pass. If I'm ever like drunk and desperate, maybe I'll hit you up for that.
Okay.
But not right now. Yeah, not right now.
All right.
Okay, Nate. Nice try. Okay, I should ask since Ray has opened the door. How'd the party go?
Party went well.
Okay.
If you can look over on Instagram at Ollie Aussie Dog. Bunch of pictures up there with his birthday hat on. Celebration. We rented the space out there. It was great. We had about 35 people show up. There was probably about 10 dogs throughout the day, but about 35 people showed up. It was business thing, friend thing, celebration. A great day. We got there. Started our walk at like 9 o'clock and
wait, he had to exercise before his birthday.
Of course,
party?
He has to exercise. He's an Australian Shepherd. If not, he would have been crazy. So we took a good 3-mile hike before the event, and then we didn't get home till what 6:30. So it was a full day event, Kyle.
No midday nap for Ollie.
No, people can see the photos actually on his Instagram page. He didn't sleep at all until about 4:30, which is a really long time for a little puppy to be awake and running around. So he finally passed out amongst all the people that were still left of the party and kind of slept in the corner.
Were there any unruly dogs that showed up? Like some guys that came in, you're like, I really wish that, man, I really wish that Fido hadn't showed up. That Fido, he's kind of a jerk off.
There is one dog that we love that's a very nice dog, but can get a little amped up. So that dog stayed in the corner. The owners, kept control of the puppy.
Would they chain him to the corner
No,
while all the other dogs got to run?
No, every dog was on a leash because while it's pet friendly. It was an outdoor bar basically. You can't have your dogs.
What a birthday party! You get chained to a leash for 2 hours.
Yeah. But no, there was no attacks, no bites, nothing like that. It was a good event, lots of fun. The hosts of the event, they loved it too. They took some photos. They're going to post on their website and everything like that. So it was a good day.
So Ali is now an international superstar.
Pretty
He'll be
much.
all over the web with this birthday party. I always have to ask this because I've realized at my age, when you start having birthday parties for your kids, which in effect Ollie's your kid,
right?
The money you got to spend on these damn birthday parties, especially when you go Ray Flowers route where you're going to host it at a place. Like for kid parties, Ray, they just get silly,
right?
Crazy expensive. Do you regret at all this birthday party, or was it one of the highlights of the year for you?
Well, I will say this: that my significant other. It was a combo dog work event. So it's probably like half dog people, half work people. So she footed the bill, which is not surprising. We talked about her. She's a doctor lawyer. She's fancy pants. But there were 60 drink tokens. So people could get free drinks, hooch, like not just soda, like booze. You can get everything they want. So she handed out free drink tickets and everything like that. So it was a high class event that we ran there on Saturday.
Sounds like it. High class. If I had known it was free drinks, Ray, I would have booked a ticket and come out for that. You never told me about the free drinks.
You would have stuck your hand and pulled out like 10 tokens and run?
Yeah. I'd be like, yeah, this dude owes me. I got to deal with him for 3 hours every day. Well, I'm very happy to hear the party was great. And people can follow online and see how all the exciting things. Any good presents? Do dogs get presents? Anything at all?
Surprisingly, there were more presents than we anticipated. He got about 10 presents.
Wow.
So lots of treats, and you know how it goes. Mostly like toys. There was a Triceratops that he got. That there's actually a photo again on Instagram at Ollie Aussie Dog. You can see him sleeping. It wasn't staged. He actually fell asleep with his head on the Triceratops. So it was kind of cute. But yeah, the people, we took way more care of bringing gifts than we anticipated. We were very surprised.
I don't mean to pry here, Ray, but was there a late night hookup between Ollie and Kiwi? I know we talked about the lovable Kiwi last week, and you said Ollie's a little sweet on Kiwi. Did they get to sniff each other's, you know what, or like what'd they do all day?
That's not how they roll. It's just a love of heart love, not a physical love. Kyle. Kiwi was on the walk with us in the morning. Kiwi was there for the party. So yeah, Kiwi and Ollie had their moments, but it wasn't an amorous linking up late night. There was nothing.
I tell you, Ray, the older I get, nothing is more exciting and reassuring than watching young love blossom. So I'm sure as a father of Ollie, you enjoy those moments of Ollie and Kiwi entering the adulthood. So
absolutely
good stuff there.
Yes.
Happy birthday to Ollie. And again, if you're looking for photos, I'm sure you can search them on Google. Ollie birthday photos. You'll find them everywhere. Okay, now Ray, back to I can't believe I've got to beg Ray Flowers to talk baseball. Like seriously, that's what I'm having to do in this segment is beg Ray to talk baseball. But you didn't watch a second of it, so I guess there's nothing to recap. Ray, man, you really did bail on baseball as soon as it ended. You're like, I'm done with this sport.
Well, so I had all that, Sunday, the party again, it was all day. Then I had to come and prep for Sunday football and do some work there on Sunday night. My Sunday started at 5:58 in the morning.
I know, Ray. Your Sunday starts before the sun goes
I did.
up.
It was even earlier this week because the dog dropped a bone and woke me up. So it was 5:58 this morning or on Sunday morning, and I didn't finish till 7:58 at night. I mean, it's like I felt terrible because I'm reading this morning reports of the games for baseball, but I didn't get an opportunity to watch any of it. It was
well, Ray, you didn't miss a whole lot between Cleveland and Tampa. It was scoreless into the 15th.
I know.
I mean, that's Ray. I'm sure everybody there. Well, probably everybody there was like, "Can we end this? Can we just go home?" But obviously, the Guardians win, so it's a memory.
Mm-hmm.
But Ray, what it reminded me of is that Ghost Runner.
No, can't.
It's got to be in the postseason.
No, Kyle can't.
We can't do the whole regular season with a guy at second base, and then we get to October and we change the rules. And I'm telling you, I'm sorry, but it's not attractive when you're in the postseason and you got more people than ever watching your sport, and it's 0-0 in the 15th inning. People turn that off and they go elsewhere. That is and I am a baseball diehard, but Ray, that is a major problem with this sport. I love the runner at second. I love that rule. I think it's a great rule, but they have to have it in the postseason if you're going to have it in the regular season.
Can't have it in the preseason. Can't have it in the regular season. Can't have it in the postseason. Can't have it. It's an atrocious rule.
Everybody was just standing up there trying to hit home runs, right? You realize that's what happens.
Yeah.
Is you just have guys up there closing their eyes and swinging the bat as hard as they can.
Well, and just to ask this question, did the people in New York close their eyes? Did you see that the Mets game wasn't even a sellout? Are you serious? Like, you're in the playoffs? You can't even, like, seriously? Like, and then again, we talked about this too. The Major League Baseball, they got to get this season. They got to really consider, and I don't know if they would, shortening their season or starting it earlier. You can't have your games go up against the NFL. You get crushed. We're in the playoffs. You're not even having a sellout. Like, even people that aren't really fans go to a playoff game, right? Ugh, the New York Mets.
Well,
New York,
I was
they couldn't
saying
sell
the
it
same thing. Like, and like Toronto, I don't know if it was a sell, but it was packed. Cleveland, I don't know if it was sell, but it was packed. I was telling my brother, it's like, I get it. It's a big event. It's a playoffs, but Cleveland's lucky if they get 10,000 to a game throughout the season. It's like, man, oh man. I did not know that though about Citi Field not selling out.
Didn't sell out. It's crazy.
Wow. I guess. Next round is set. It begins tomorrow. There are no games today. Here are your matchups. You got Philly against Atlanta, San Diego against the Dodgers, and Juan Soto would like all you Padre fans to come up to LA. Seattle and Houston, Cleveland and New York. Now, Ray, here are the odds.
Okay.
Philly plus 155 to win the series. Atlanta minus 185. Now, I got to see a lot of the Phillies this weekend. They were playing the Cardinals here in St. Louis. Nola and Wheeler were nails. They were. And if those guys stay nails, you got a chance. But after those two, I don't think they got much pitching. I don't fear anybody really in their bullpen. I know Alvarado's been good. The lineup has been hugely inconsistent. It was pretty good this weekend against the Cardinals. But, Ray, I can't see Philadelphia trumping the Braves here. Can you? I believe the Braves are well deserving of that minus 185.
Yeah, I would take the Braves too. They just signed Spencer Strider. I'm sure everyone saw it. Gave him a 6-year deal as they continue to lock up all their pieces, which is remarkable. They anticipate Strider filling some role in this series as well. It's unclear what that exactly will be, but I agree with you. I would go with the Braves here.
Dodgers, as expected, heavy favorite against the Padres, minus 210. Padres are a little bit like Philly, Ray. Like, you look at them and think, oh, they should be better, but the lineup has been back and forth. They looked great last night, by the way. I got to watch every pitch of that game, and the lineup hit. They didn't just club home runs or strike out. Like, they were moving base runners. That was exciting baseball. So they looked a lot better in this series, but they have been crushed by the Dodgers for like 3 years now, Ray. It's really seeing how the Dodgers have just manhandled them for the last 3 years. Kind of difficult to foresee the Padres figuring it out in the next 5 games.
Yeah, there's some of that. And, the Dodgers are, they're the best team in baseball. We all know that. They had one of the 5 winningest records in history. They've got all the pitching. They've got all the depth. They're a tough opponent to beat, even if you've got the horses. Again, like you said, it always comes down to pitching. And if Darvish and Musgrove are doing their thing, it sounds like Clevenger's going to be back too. They've got solid pitching, and that's going to probably be the only way they can keep up.
Did you see Musgrove getting his ears checked out for third-party material out there on the hill?
Yeah, I did get a chance to watch that video, John Boy and everything this morning. I saw that. And it's so funny. I guess all the reports where the spin rates were up and everything. So
yeah, everything was up. Velocity was up, spin rate.
Yep.
He's been unhittable for like a month, Joe Musgrove.
He's a good pitcher. Yeah, it's like, and again, the video of his ear looking shiny. I don't know. I saw that Andrew McCutchen.
I think it was. I feel it was pure gamesmanship, Ray, because the Mets were doing nothing in that game, right. And I think Showalter said we're going to try to throw him off his game. Possibly. Just try. We don't really suspect it. We're not seeing anything, but let's raise a ruckus and see if we can shake him just a bit.
You ever use Icy Hot?
When I was a child,
right?
Yeah.
I've used it when I was a kid too. I saw Andrew McCutchen guesstimate, and he admitted he had no idea that maybe he had Icy Hot in his ear, because he said
hot in his ear.
He said for some reason some people use it that way to amp themselves up. People can go find it on his Twitter account. He was going back and forth with some people about,
It's like the modern day greenie.
Well, yeah, kind of, because he said, look, and people were like, oh, and he's like, look, it's not illegal to use icy hot. Like anyone, it's not. Now, if you're rubbing icy hot on your fingers and then pitching, it's a substance, so that would be. But yeah, that was his guesstimate as to what was going on. I don't think anyone seriously believed he was doctoring the baseball. To your point.
Well, I will tell you, they were very thorough in their investigation.
Yeah, I don't want to it's like a Skinamax movie from when we were kids. I don't need you rubbing a guy. Like it's creepy.
I mean, they checked his hands, they checked his ears, they checked his hat, they checked his mitt, they checked his belt. I mean, it was thorough, Ray. I thought they were going to make him undress in the middle of the field.
Again, it was uncomfortable. He's like, oh, yeah. I don't know. No.
Okay, so we'll both go Dodgers there. Yes. I think it's fair. Now, I think these AL series are attractive. In fact, my lunch hunt today, Ray, is Cleveland will knock off the Yankees in this round.
Okay.
This Cleveland team, Ray, I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I don't know what secret sauce they have. But I look at the Yankees, Ray, and I'm not sold on their greatness. I'm really not. They're good. They won the AL East, and they've got this great season from this great player. Their pitching is solid, and they are the better team. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the Yankees are overrated and Cleveland's actually better. But you get odds right now of Cleveland plus 175 here. Like, the odds are the same for the Yankees-Cleveland series as they are for the Dodgers-Padres. I look at the Dodgers and say they should be a bigger favorite than should be the Yankees because Cleveland just figures it out, Ray. There's no easy outs in the lineup. They make you make plays. The Yankees are going to try to rack up strikeout after strikeout. This is a hard team to whiff, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
They will put the ball in play. They won't hit home runs, although that's all they hit in the wild card round. It just took them 24 innings to get 3 runs. I just feel like that's going to be my lunch hunch for today. Take the Guardians to knock off the Yanks.
Yeah, and, I mean, they're not a one-person team, the Yankees, right? But we've talked about this. Anthony Rizzo dealt with things in the second half physically. Josh Donaldson, underperformed based on expectations. Stanton hit a home run, but doesn't do much else. Harrison Bader, what is he at this point of the season? Oswaldo Cabrera was actually one of their better offensive players down the stretch. And then you look at the pitching staff and you say they're not going to hit home runs. The one issue that Cole has is the home run. So if that bites him, I don't mind that lunch hunch. I mean, again, I understand why the odds are what they are, but I don't mind it, Kyle.
Seattle's in Houston. Houston's the biggest favorite in this round, minus 220. Seattle plus 185. I think that's a series, Ray, where we really see the advantage, if you will, of having days off. Like Houston did, like the Yankees did, the Dodgers did, Atlanta did. That Seattle team, is amped. It's fun, and they're going to have, good vibes going to Houston. But they had to use 2 pitchers. They had to give a ton just to come back and win that Saturday game. So we'll see. But I look at Houston and I feel they're just too good, just too solid up and down. Pitching staff is loaded. I think it could be a good series. I'd like it to be a 7-game series. It's only going to be a 5-game series, but I think Houston would be my selection there.
I think they have to be. You correctly called the Mariners one before their series against the Blue Jays, but the Astros are just a really good team, and that pitching staff is pretty dominant, especially on the starting side.
And word on the street, brand new trash cans have arrived at Minute Maid for this year, just in time for the postseason. We were talking about tickets in our chat room, Ray. Word on the street in Seattle, first playoffs in over 2 decades for the Mariners. Tickets are going for about $550 to the 300 section at Seattle, which I get. There's money up there. It's an exciting time. That's the upper deck going for about $550. I would much rather sit at home and take that one in.
You could have got a Mets ticket for face value, apparently, for their game against the Padres.
Could have bought a whole row at the Mets game.
Yeah. But no, it's playoff baseball. It's, you haven't had the opportunity. I mean, think about that. All the families that have lived there for decades. Go for it. Spend the money. What the hell?
Yeah, once in a while. Hey, you may not be there for another 20 years. Felix never got there. Ichiro got there, but it was right at the front of his career. So, take advantage while you can, and that'll be fun. First 2 games are all at the higher seeded stadium. And again, all 4 of these games, all 4 of the series start tomorrow. Nothing going on tonight. We'll have a bit more on these series coming up tomorrow. Since I mentioned my lunch hunch, Ray, I stayed in the world of baseball. Yep. Do you have a lunch hunch?
I do. And I will be in the world of baseball for this one as well. We've got the Padres and the Dodgers playing each other, as you noted here. So that, I wish they were separated here so they could have met potentially in the next round. But I'm still taking the bet that I saw. It's a plus 200 for the World Series winner to come from California. If the Padres are good enough to knock off the Dodgers, who are my pick before this whole thing started, I got to feel pretty good about them. But one of those two California teams plus 200 to win the series.
What's do you have it in front of you? What the field is like any other state?
Let me pull it up. They had them all. Yeah, I'll find that in a second. Kyle.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
I mean, New York was the popular one. Now the Mets have been knocked out. You look at this. I mean, you still get Atlanta. You get Houston. You get my Guardians, who are going to pull off the upset.
Where's the bet that I saw this? I'll have to find it. Why am I drawing a blank?
Yeah, it may take you a while. Those sometimes once you get lost in those bet books, you never can find.
Here it is. Yeah, here we go. The best odds are any other state at 290. The worst odds at going to your Guardians plus 1900 for a team from Ohio to win the series.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I mean, even if they put the Reds and Guardians together, Ray, I wouldn't make that bet. Let's get the best of both teams. I don't think I'd take it too far. That's our lunch hunch for this Monday. Let's take one last time out. I know we got Duke hanging out in the den, so we're going to get one last thought from him coming on this Monday. We got to get you set for Monday Night Football. Got a big game going on between the Raiders and the Chiefs, a very critical game for the Raiders. They lose this one, and I think they would fall 3 games behind the Chiefs in the AFC West standings. So they'd like to put up a fight. We'll take a preview, give you our favorite prop. We've got guys to follow, guys to fade. Any other news coming out of yesterday's action, we'll give it to you all coming up next on Lunch Money right here on the Bettor Sports Network. Okay, looks like we're having some technical difficulties with Duke, so we'll try to figure that out as we proceed. Ray, I hope you enjoyed your 15-second break.
I got a sip of water. I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, at least you didn't say anything about what you really think of our viewers and our listeners, and you wish they'd stop bothering. Somebody had asked in the room, Ray, if they missed the Kyler Murray attack. Oh. They did. They're going to have to go back to hour 1 for the Kyler.
Yeah,
Murray.
Right at the top, we let some venom out that was completely deserved, and I said it's the worst contract in the history of sports. Said it.
That's kind of silly.
Kind of is, but it still could be true.
Yeah, it's pretty silly, Ray. I mean, have you heard of Steven Strasburg?
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, he's only owed what, $140 million the next 4 years.
So yeah, I mean, at least like the Cardinals could have an out on Kyler Murray. Could. But I don't think that the Nationals really do. Like what the Nationals are hoping for, I think that Nationals thing, here's going to be my prediction, Ray. They're going to play this like David Wright, where in effect, he's going to retire and they'll get insurance to cover the contract.
Okay.
They're going to say that Steven Strasburg has some kind of long-term injury, or there's going to be a way that insurance ends up covering this for the Nationals. They're just working out the agreement.
Yeah, and by the way, I saw this mentioned again here in the chat. What about the Bobby Bonilla contract? The Bobby Bonilla contract was not a bad contract.
That's not a bad contract at all.
Not at all.
The Mets came out like winners.
Yeah.
Like the $1 million they promise Bobby Bonilla every year is like $650,000 now. It's like $600,000 now.
Well, but
it's nothing.
It's not just that. The way that the annuities work is they put a lump sum payment in of like $5 million and it pays them out forever. So that was not a bad contract. It's a great contract for Bonilla. Yeah. And in the end, it looks dumb because he gets all this money.
I would argue it's not a great guy. I mean, it's cool to get a paycheck every year, but Bobby Bonilla lost money by deferring because the millions of dollars he deferred in 1992.
I see what you're saying.
It's not $1 million anymore. It isn't. It's worth like $600,000 now. Like anytime a player defers, they're doing the team a huge favor.
Well, but
Like,
it also
Bobby
doesn't
Bonilla
it
did the
doesn't
Mets a
cost the
huge
team
favor.
more money because they put the money in an annuity and this gets paid off. So the Mets haven't put $1 in this in 25 years. Like it just gets paid off. So
yeah, the Bonilla contract is not a bad that $1 million is just a funny story. He gets $1 million.
Yeah, it's not $230 million.
Somebody's saying Russell Wilson's going to be worse than Kyler Murray, right?
I know that Ted Schuster would say that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the piling on Russell Wilson is pretty extreme. I mean, it's a brand new place. He's been there 5 weeks. And I'm as upset as anybody. I said it last week on the show. Figure it out, man. You've had 3 months to get this offense together. Hasn't gotten together, which Nathaniel Hackett actually said last week. Maybe we need to adjust.
You think?
He's learning. He's learning. Okay, Ray, let's get to Monday Night Football. Arrowhead is the place to be, which we've discovered they're probably opening up the parking lot as we speak.
Ooh.
Right now, they're getting the things opened up so people can party. I was talking to my brother who lives in Kansas City because remember a few weeks back we were talking about Arrowhead and the tailgating scene, and one of our followers there in the chat room is from Kansas City and said they opened it up at like 2:00. So my brother lives in Kansas City. I was talking to him about this, and he goes, yeah, they opened it up in the afternoon. And he had a very good point, Ray. The reason they can't open it up early is because they don't want it to be to where you can literally get blackout drunk, sleep it off, and get drunk again in time for the game.
It's a long day. Yeah.
It's a long day. Long day. So they will be partying, no doubt, at Arrowhead tonight as the Chiefs welcome the Raiders to town. Kansas City is favored by 7.5. And I believe, Ray, this is the largest over-under for the entire week, 52. I don't think we had another over-under anywhere over 50. Maybe we got to 50 somewhere on the books, but this is 52. Kansas City minus 345 on the money line, and Vegas is plus 285. Check this out, Ray. Andy Reid against the Raiders as the Chiefs head coach is 16-3. This is downright ownership by the Chiefs. And Mahomes, Ray, is like unstoppable against the Raiders. His numbers, I mean, he's 320 yards a game. He averages 3 passing touchdowns. Like the Raiders don't have a clue against Patrick Mahomes, nor do they have a clue against an Andy Reid-led team.
Yeah, Mahomes is like 22-3 against the AFC West, which is unbelievable. But according to Adam Schefter, in those 8 starts against the Raiders that you were referencing, the Chiefs have averaged over 37 points. That's a lot. So, the new coaching staff, okay, so, how much does that really bleed into this season? But the fact is, you're right. They have not been able to stop Patrick Mahomes, though. Most people haven't either.
Well, and I've said numerous times this year, Ray, like the market, Vegas tends to overrate the Chiefs. I look at these numbers and I'm feeling the Chiefs. Like, and I haven't seen anything from the Raiders, Ray, that says the gap is closing. Now, they may keep this competitive. They may stay within 7.5, which isn't a huge number, but it's a big number. Do you see, like, are the Raiders better than the record indicates? They're 1-3. Right now. They obviously added Devontae Adams. They've been okay. They're not getting like blown off the football field, but do you think they're a playoff team, a playoff contender, or do you think they've kind of just run into a division that's better than they are?
Yeah, I think they're a solid football team, but it's a tough division. There's tough matchups. I think their defense is moderate to average. I mean, it's not, let's say, middle of the pack. I think their offense can be better than that, but they've had some injuries on the offensive side of things. I think that trying to figure out the whole Devontae Adams situation, which we've talked about previously, like balancing this guy's got to get 10 targets each week with how does that affect our offense? I think they're like a 500 team. And, that could be 11 wins. That could be 7 wins. There's a lot of variance when you make a statement like that.
I was reading some stuff on Derek Carr last week, Ray, and they were making the point in the article that you can look at a lot of his numbers right now, and they're probably not every number, but a lot of the ratio numbers, the efficiency numbers are the worst they've been since way back in his rookie year. So like Derek Carr was this guy, again, we were talking about QB2s. A lot of people like Derek Carr as that favored QB2. He's not really lived up to that billing to start the 2022 campaign.
He hasn't at all. I mean, and you look at his career, his QB rating is 83. Like that's okay if you're, Nick Anderson. Was it Nick Anderson? Who was the quarterback of the Bengals? That doesn't sound. What's his first name?
Ken
Anderson. Thank you. If you're Ken Anderson back in 1981, it's okay to be at 83. Nowadays, it needs to be 93, right? Like it's not there. His QBR is down. His completion percentage is way down. I mean, he's been at 67% or better each of the last 4 years. This year, it's 61%. So yeah, he's not stepped up like we had hoped. I think there's still every reason to believe that moving forward he'll be a solid QB2, but dreams of him being a QB1 are fading quickly.
We had a question earlier in the chat room, and when I say earlier, I know it was like an hour or two ago, but it was about Hunter Renfrow, who it looks like he's going to play in this game, right? That he's good to go. He's set to be out there. And again, at this point, what are your options? But on a Monday night, I mean, if you haven't made the decision yet, but I would say overall, Ray, I look at Renfrow, and it's not like, oh, that's a top 35 receiver. Like if I'm playing Renfrow tonight, that means my other options are pretty thin.
Right.
Like I don't even see him as a, if I'm in a 12-team league and we're starting 36 wide receivers, a flex, all that stuff, I wouldn't put him in my top 40 on that list.
Yeah, I think we had him at 49 this week. Yeah. Something to exactly what you're saying there. He's my player to fade in this game. He's coming back from a concussion. There's other mouths to feed. Waller, obviously Adams, Matt Collins has stepped forward a little bit. We're seeing more passes thrown to Josh Jacobs. Hunter Renfrow is a PPR option, especially when we start hitting the bye weeks, in week 6. Like then he'll start to be in play for starting. But people that rostered him this year expecting him to build on or repeat the second half production last year just could never get into that boat, and I'm certainly not on it now.
I'm going to fade Josh Jacobs here, and I think my fear is, Ray, that the Raiders are going to be playing catch-up the whole time. And, it's no knock on Josh Jacobs. He's actually had a very good season. He might be the most consistent offensive weapon that the Vegas Raiders have had this year, in terms of game to game. Hasn't been great, but consistently solid. Had a very good game in week 4, but he would be my fade here just because game script does not seem to favor him. I think Carr is the guy to watch because, again, it's not a really slow start. It's a slow start for Derek Carr. This offense has not totally answered the bell. So Carr's one of these. He's in this position tonight where he's going to be asked to move the football. It's going to be on his right arm. He's going to have to sling this thing to keep up with the Chiefs. So a lot of emphasis on him. Who's your player to watch in this game?
My player to watch in this game is Juju Smith-Schuster. He's going to play. He's got the ankle issue. We get a lot of questions about people like want to do McCole Hardman or Sky Moore. It's like, look, if you've waited to this point, you're playing Juju. Always thought he was going to play. It's been really interesting that, he has not lived up to expectations, but he's been fine. Like this is not a torpedo scenario where he's out there every week catching 2 passes for 9 yards. And it's like, holy crap. Has he been great? No. Has he been good? No. But he's caught 5 passes 3 times. I mean, it's not like he hasn't been involved in this offense. I think tonight he's got a chance to start to establish himself if indeed that ankle is okay. I think it's good enough for him to play a full complement of snaps. He's my guy to watch.
My favorite prop is actually banking on the tight ends. We got 2 good ones here, although one is looking like a star, the other one not so much. Darren Waller, who's got out of the gates a bit slow. He's not getting a ton of action in this offense thus far. Obviously, on the other side, you have Travis Kelce. He always gets action. Ray, the prop I've got, Kelce and Waller combined to be over 134.5 receiving yards. And it's even money, plus 100. I think at the very least, Ray, I can get 80 from Kelce. So I don't need anything great from Waller, but I kind of like that number, 134.5, which I got to say, outside of a Kelce-Andrews matchup, I don't know if you'll find another matchup where you get 2 tight ends and the over-under comes in at 134.5 like we have tonight.
Right. Yeah. It's like 80 and 55 or something, and let's stick them together. But yeah, I mean, both those guys can have huge gains. Both guys are centerpieces of their offense. It's not a bad one, Kyle. I like it.
I'll tell you this. If those 2 tight ends, Ray, don't end up as top 10 tight ends this week, that'll be a giant disappointment. The tight end section really sucked this week. Like we had Andrews doing Andrews things. We had Njoku with his good game. Hurst probably isn't. Well, I know he's in the top 10. Goddard had a lot of catches. Pretty good. Like after those guys, Ray, tight end. Well, Taysom Hill. Goes without saying, because we're calling him a tight end, even though it was all running yesterday. But like tight end was maybe the worst it's been this year because we didn't even have the no-namers kind of step up and throw down 7 catches and a touchdown.
The trials and travails of the position. And then let's not forget, everyone's tight end 3 coming into the season. Kyle Pitts didn't even play.
Yeah. George Kittle didn't have much going for him. They tried to get him going. He had a fumble early, and I kind of stopped that. What's your favorite prop for this Raiders-Chiefs game tonight?
Josh Jacobs, minus 115 to go over 84.5 scrimmage yards. He's averaging 84 yards on the ground this season. He's actually caught 5 balls in each of the last 2 games. So even if they're behind, to your earlier point that the game flow, if he's catching passes, so I'm taking that minus 115 over 84.5 scrimmage yards.
You think he'll be good for 50 catches this year, Josh Jacobs?
I think that's certainly a fair barometer. Yeah, I think so, especially with the extra game, right? So yeah, I'd put money on that, sure.
That's a decent total. I think that maybe gets overlooked with a guy like Jacobs. We don't think of him as that rushing and receiving option. I always feel like people think of him as only a running back. That's what he does. Josh Jacobs does. But yeah, the receiving part of his game is certainly there. Watchability tonight, I will give it a 4. I expect the Chiefs to be in the 30s. Now, that's a dangerous call. We sit here a lot and say, oh, yeah, the Chiefs are going to score. They're going to be going up and down the field. There's a lot of history favoring Kansas City moving the ball tonight. So I'll take a shot on that history, Ray. And I think we see some offense. I think we see some up and down play. It's always fun having games at Arrowhead. So I'll go with a 4.
I'll go with the 4 as well. I was tempted to go with the 5 because it's Monday Night Football, but I thought I'd back off on that. Just look at the game on its own. So I went with the 4.
Okay, and there's no baseball to distract you tonight, Ray, so you can focus purely on football. My bet du jour, which we usually get to this at the start of the show, but hey, we were doing 2 hours of Week 5 stuff. It's from this game, so I want to give it now. Juju and Devontae Adams over 138.5 yards receiving. Now, this is minus 15. Ray, I figure one of these 2 bets I'm hitting. I don't think I can hit both. I don't think I can hit the Kelsey and Waller plus the Adams and Juju. But I feel like I've set the table well. I've hedged a bit. Mm-hmm. One of these should hit. Now, this one, again, minus 115. So I'm not getting a good payoff. The Kelsey Waller one is plus 100, but they're practically the same number. One is 134.5. The other is 138.5. Do you like one of those over the other more?
I'd probably go the tight ends, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
like the payoff, too.
Yeah, it's good payoff. I'll share my bet du jour, too, because it's in the game tonight. We talked about this player. It's a minus 170, so okay. But Josh Jacobs was going over 2.5 catches. Like, it's just – we say this a lot. Oh, we talk about the running backs. Okay. It's going to happen tonight. Why is it going to happen tonight? Well, not only has he caught 5 balls in each of the last 2 games, but the Chiefs are allowing 10 receptions a week to the running back, which is the most in football. They've had 5 or more catches given up to Connor, Eckler, Hines, Fournette, White. That's 5 guys in 4 games. He's going to get the 2.5 catches. Book it tonight.
Good call. I'm digging that one, Ray Flowers. Nice find. Really nice find. Okay, 8:15 tonight, last game of Week 5. And then fear not, after tonight's game, it'll only be like a short 72-hour wait, and you get to settle in for Bears Commanders Thursday night. That's got to be better than last Thursday, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, hopefully.
Now that Justin Fields is getting released, turned loose by that Bears offensive play calling. A few more minutes left on this edition of Lunch Money. Reminder, Corey Nando and friends coming your way in about 10 minutes or so. Want to thank our producers, Heather Klein, and with us for the first time, Josh Winchester is hanging out. Remember last week we told you that Draws was bailing? Now, we hope Josh can hang around longer than like 4 weeks. Our track record says we better watch out, but good to have you on board, Josh, and thanks for the help today. Ray, let's move to our blood pressure spikes from Week 5. I referenced this earlier. The 4th down stuff, Ray, might be getting a tad too silly. This Chargers decision yesterday is confusing to me.
Very.
Really confusing. For those who missed it, there's like a minute 15 left in the game. Chargers are up by 2. They have a 4th and 1 at their own 47. Maybe it was 48. But they're on their side of the football field. 4th and 1. The Browns, Ray, had no timeouts. Nothing. No timeouts. And they would have to go, I don't know, at least 50 yards if you punted it away. And they'd have to go 50 yards maybe to get within field goal range. But Brandon Staley goes for it, Ray. And Brandon Staley passes. And Brandon Staley should have lost that game and gone home empty-handed. Instead, The Browns barely moved the football. They missed a field goal, and the Chargers win. Am I missing something here? And I know this is what the Chargers do. And I think last week, what was the situation last week? And I said, hey, man, it's that's how they – Baltimore. Baltimore went for it on that 4th and goal. And, I said I had no problem with the decision, Lamar Jackson doing what the Ravens do, but then they threw it. And I was like, that doesn't make – so I had no problem. Ray, this one, I know that's what the Chargers like to do. They're aggressive, much like the Ravens. But this is not the spot. Like, this just appears to me, like, if I'm the Chargers owner or GM, don't just sit Brandon Staley down and you say, like, come on, dude. We can't be stupid like this. I get that you're new age and you're all-knowing and you're gutsy beyond belief, but we can't be doing crap like this that allows Cleveland a chance to beat us.
Well, it's not. I agree with everything you're saying, and it's not just that. I would even take it a step further. Like, are these teams so fearful of their defense being incapable of stopping an opponent that they don't even trust them? I don't get that. Like, you don't trust that you could stop Jacoby Brissett? Like, you really think he's going to lead okay, then you don't deserve to win anyway. Like, you can't stop Jacoby Brissett from leading a 1.5-minute, 70-yard drive. You suck anyway. And so, playing I've said this in baseball. I've said, this, the listeners know this. They followed our work. It's too much analytics. Sometimes you just got to be smart and do the right thing. And the right thing is not doing what the Chargers did yesterday. That was the wrong thing to do. I don't care what the analytics say. Well,
and we're seeing a lot of, the analytics you bring up, we're seeing a lot of people go for it on 4th down. Like yesterday, Detroit they went for it 6 times. They failed on all 6. They were 0 for 6. Now, they went for it that much because they were losing, but they really didn't have a game plan for succeeding on 4th down. We've seen a load of other teams, Ray, just pass on the punt. If they're like at the 50-yard line, they're always going for it. And you might say, well, this is the same situation. But, Ray, with a minute 15 to go.
No, yeah.
Like, if he had made that decision in the second quarter, I probably wouldn't have an issue. If you screw up in the second quarter, you got the next 2 quarters to make it up. Hell, if you screw it up in the third quarter, you got the next quarter to make it up. If you screw up with a minute 10,
you lose.
You don't give yourself any wiggle room. So, that's something I keep looking at, and I know why teams go for it, but then again, I don't really know why teams go for it there. I will say on the other side, this isn't all on the Chargers. Ray, the Browns get the ball there, and Nick Chubb doesn't touch the ball the rest of the game at all. Like, they're needing yardage, they're needing downs and all this. Instead, they're throwing it with Jacoby Brissett. So no one misses out on complaining about the play calling.
Well, Nick Chubb, and I continue to say this, and I think it's proven every week, he's the best running back in football.
It's pretty crazy. He's having an awesome start.
He is. And, you look at the carry totals, and he's getting his 100 yards every week. Doing 17, 23, 19, 17. Where's the 27 that Derrick Henry used to get all the time? Like, why does that never it never happens with Nick Chubb? I know they got Kareem Hunt, but why? I don't get it.
Yeah. Another blood pressure moment for me, Ray. Speaking of Henry, do people realize that the Titans are winning, and yet they have scored 0 points in the 4th quarter this year? Like, how in the world? And beyond that, Ray, if you look at the AFC South, is there a good team in the AFC South? Like, does any team, like, if we stop today, I would argue not a single one of those AFC South teams deserves to be in the postseason, right?
I think that's totally fair. Yep.
Like, Indianapolis sucks. Tennessee's okay. Jacksonville is probably below average. And Houston is probably a little below average. The best team, I don't want to say the best because that makes me think, they're a 5. So Houston, Ray, has probably played some of the best football, honestly. Like, defensively and offensively, that may be at least the most consistent from week to week team in the AFC South.
The Titans, by the way, have 96 points. They've given up 118. They've allowed 22 more points than they have scored. I think that's like the second worst mark in football. I think I saw that somewhere. I mean, the division is not good, but you're right. The Texans play solid football. They're in games. Again, they're not playoff bound or anything like that, but we joke all the time over at fantasyguru.com. How do the Titans win football games? And we all kind of just go, we don't know.
Yeah. Well, they won yesterday on the road in Washington, and They always find a way under Mike Vrabel. Well, that takes us to the end of our fun Monday here on Lunch Money. If you missed any portion of what Ray and I did today, by all means, hit us up on demand. Again, it's just $3 a month for all the on demand, not only our show, but that gets you all the show, all of the audio highlights. It allows you to jump into all sorts of stuff. You don't have to always be here from 12 to 3, although we love the people who are always here from 12 to 3. Great action in the chat room, by the way. Good stuff. Hopefully your Sunday went well. We got one more game tonight, and we'll see how things go. Ray, enjoy that shirt. Are you going to wash that shirt ever, or will it never get washed just because? I feel like all the colors of Ollie will run if you wash
They might, but I'll wash it. We'll give it a shot, see how it goes. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, Ollie hanging out on a beach. There it is. And Ray Flowers has a shirt of that. Crazy things happening here on Lunch Money. Our thanks to Heather and Josh. We'll see you tomorrow, 12 Eastern, right here at the Bettor Sports Network.